is live. They can hear it all.
Okay, well, you should start talking.
La la.
Do you want a hat?
A hat? Yeah, sure. I can be, I have a warm scalp.
Uh-huh.
Whee! Lori is on her way, and we will begin. Of course, I haven't set up the camera. Is it time? It's just about time. There's Lori's empty chair.
Yeah. It's a good chair.
Corey looks different. Corey's wearing the Heroes Quest t-shirt. And, yep, about this. This is really cool. You can get farther with a kind word and a sword than with a kind word alone. Or with a sword alone. Ah, the dragon is a very self-satisfied smirk. Yep, fresh hero snack time. That would be me. Well, I can't remember. Did we play on GOG or Steam last time?
Oh,
probably GOG.
Yeah, like I know. Yeah.
Something or other.
Okay, yeah, I am here, and I'm going to raise my chair.
Ah, Lori's going to be...
a little taller.
Lori's going to get high.
Yeah, not very, but at least I'm a little closer. That puts us about eye level. What do you know? Hi there, everybody. Welcome, welcome.
What doesn't lower you makes you higher.
Ah, okay. I see. So, of course, I'm wearing the 30 years of glory for the anniversary we had.
Whereas I'm wearing an old leftover shirt. I was just thinking earlier I was wearing a green, dark green flannel shirt and a bright blue sweatshirt earlier today when it was kind of cold. And so we were doing a meeting of the Old Fogey Game Designers Workshop and some younger people. Well, I don't know, it's all secret, but...
I'm sure it is.
But I was thinking, I probably owned those clothes when I was at Sierra, just as this shirt comes from, this shirt comes from 1989.
So, yeah, we're old, our clothes are old.
Is this HQ logo, is this the one that was misprinted and that was supposed to have Heroes Quest under it, I think?
Could be.
Yeah, so I think this was the early copy we got, long sleeved, which is nice. Although
it was very nice in when we were living in Oakhurst, particularly.
Yeah, because we didn't have any heat there. We had a fireplace in the living room.
Yep.
Although
we were
stove.
at the point where we were making this game, we were living in the rental house.
No.
On the river.
Oh, were we? Okay.
Because we bought the house
when
we had money.
We used the Heroes Quest royalties to buy our house in Awani. So, yeah, we were still renting a house by the river. I don't know what kind of heat we had there. We probably had some.
We had heat there, I think. And Arlo says, don't feel bad. I still have a shirt from when I was 7. Okay. Yes, that would never happen here.
I'd be able to put that shirt over my arm,
Yeah. Not going to happen. Sorry. Yes. I love how you both voiced your cameo selves in the Conquest of Longbow recap. Well, thank you. We
were. That was requested of us, so we said, well, sure, why not?
I'll be happy to do that. Yes. Datavar, thank you very much.
We still owe a couple people videos that have asked for them. One of them, there's going to be a thing they're calling the Adventure Game Festival or something like that up in Spokane, Washington this summer. July, at the end of July, and they're tying into that a Sierra Festival where a bunch of Sierra alumni
are we going to that one?
We're going to that, yeah.
Do we have reservations or any plans?
Well, that would be too strong a term.
I guess we better make some plans.
I think they're planning on doing a Kickstarter for it and something. Maybe they'll raise enough money to get some of the people there.
Maybe.
Or maybe we'll pay our own way. Right. It doesn't really matter.
I see April Dawn says, can't believe I actually caught one of your streams from the start. Feels amazing, man.
Yeah, it feels amazing for us.
We're really glad you're here. Tashtari just subscribed for 21 months.
Oh, nice. Yeah, it was a challenge for me to be here because I got up early this morning for the aforementioned Game Designers Workshop, and after staying up till 2:30 in the morning, and then managed to crash again and take a nap and got a shower. I'm all clean. I smell nice, right? Oh, maybe not.
Something lizard jerky.
Maybe they can't smell me over the.
They can't. There's no smell-o-vision, thank God.
Oh, well.
Yes, we don't actually want that feature on our computers, I'm afraid. Can you imagine what it would smell like in some
there
of those
was
games? Yes.
Lovely banter between a married couple, yeah. Old married couple.
Yeah, well.
But yeah, there was actually a push to do smell-o-vision type things for movies and for computer games back in, I want to say late 90s.
Yeah.
And one of the
Did
shows.
you have one of those games where you had the scratch and sniff tag that you had
yeah,
to
they
sniff
did that
to smell
they
as
did
you
that for one
played
of
the
games.
game? Really?
Are we husband and wife instead of brother and sister? I am definitely not sleeping with my sister. Thank you very much.
Yes, although there was a resemblance between my face at the time and
yeah,
my
Lori
sister.
looked a little like my sister.
Yes.
So.
But personality-wise, we're never the same. Sorry.
Yeah, no.
And Brainiac says, yeah, I'd love to go that already.
Cell 7 had the scratch and sniff card. Anyway, but yeah, this was a thing that had, you filled up, you took little capsules of scents, and it had a spray mechanism that would spray a fine mist of the chosen scent when you got to a point in the game or the movie that had a particular scent associated with it. And they were pushing that as the next big thing, and of course it never went anywhere.
Never went anywhere, yes.
Too expensive, probably.
Brainiac's going to Convergence in Minneapolis earlier that month. Yes. Chez Levy, yes. So it goes. You never know. Yes.
Okay, somebody has linked it. Adventure Game Hotspot is putting it on.
Yes. There you
AGH Con. Adventure Game Hotspot Convention. The Adventure Game Hotspot prevents Adventure Con 2024. There we go. We can click on that.
Actually,
I don't know. Is that link safe?
Well, yeah. Why wouldn't it be?
Here's our desktop.
Yes,
Adventure
yay!
Game Fanfare by AGH. Reserve your tickets now.
Yes, isn't that
coming soon?
Okay, fine. They don't have it.
And they're waiting for us. Upcoming project on Kickstarter.
We're supposed to do a little intro for them.
What's the, let me search. Yeah, we're supposed to write an intro video just basically saying, we're excited to go to Adventure Game.
Yes, we're
if
really
we can remember the
looking
name of
forward
it.
to Yes, if you could actually.
Adventure Game Hotspot. Hotspot? Typing is hard. Here he is, the home of classics. So we will give them a little advertisement. I'll put that in the sidebar.
So you
blink,
can
blink.
read it?
Yeah, so they're, if anyone wants to see that, that's the Adventure Game Hotspot, and they're all about both classic and modern adventures.
Broken
there we go.
Sword Reforged.
Collector's Edition pre-launch, and a look ahead at 2024.
Yeah, so it's
Well,
good
he gave
things.
me tea.
And the best and not so best games of...
Adventure games of
well,
2023.
adventures, yes.
Gone
Okay.
but not forgotten games. Anyway, so they're putting on this thing.
Yes, even if you can't go, I can support. That's always good. Yes, we should support these things. We will definitely be supporting it.
keep an eye on that. They'll be running a Kickstarter. They're probably waiting for our video, among other things.
Well,
but
I'm sure
if so, they could wait a long time
everything
because they asked for it a month or two ago.
Oh, okay.
But okay,
You're
so
still
did they
showing
say
your
anything?
screen? No.
Yeah, there we go. July 27th and 28th. Anyway, so they're billing this to us, to Sierra alumni, as a place to get together with other Sierra alumni. And so they were trying to get Jane Jensen, Robert Holmes, and Mark Crow, and Scott Murphy, and Aldo,
anybody they could grab.
Ken Roberta, and anyone they can talk into coming to it.
Yeah. So
and sounds like fun.
We said sure. We're suckers. I mean, we love conventions.
They have promised us that the alumni get-together thing will be separate from the Adventure Game Fanfare, and they will not have a bunch of fans tagging along, but we'll see.
Yeah, and besides, it's kind of fun to have fans tagging along. But did they say something about a booth?
You like having people that love us?
Yeah, it's kind of nice.
Oh yeah, they're gonna have we're gonna have a table or something to show off Tilly's Tale and maybe a prelim of
right. We'll have to
Feo's Adventure.
Set up a table.
Oh, we'll have to make an Amiga demo of
yes.
Yeah, so that the game industry they're constantly asking you to put together demos for different conferences like E3 and which no longer exists, and CES and stuff like that. And the only problem with that is they don't allocate any additional time in the schedule to do that. So there is never enough time to take a month off from working on a game to get up with a playable demo for a convention.
Arlo Heroes sounds like it would be a better sell if there weren't all these online blog posts from former Sierra employees talking about how much they hated the company at the time. Yes, they did, and we do. We really talk about it, but that doesn't mean we didn't like the people that worked there.
Yeah, I mean, it was all a roller coaster ride, and it was overwork and underpay, but with amazing people. Yes. We had just, the colleagues were... it was just so much fun to brainstorm with Bob Heitman and Jerry Moore and Doug Herring and all those guys.
They were crazy people, and we really enjoyed them. So yes, that's the advantage of getting back together again. Of course, there are people like, we hardly talked to Jane Jensen because even we were simultaneously in our own little worlds, in our own places.
Making our own games, yeah.
Yeah, so...
Carlos Escobar was the craziest.
Well, he's long gone.
Well, there are many people long gone. Yes. Carly Hawksdaughter, who introduced us to Sierra, passed away late last year.
Thank you.
Thanks for all those diamonds.
Yes, those diamond things. Yes.
They're called something. They are called Cheer 100.
Yay! Lots of 100
all right.
cheers. Thank
Lots
you
of
much.
cheers from Evo Dev Team.
Yes.
So Evo Dev Team, are you developing something? That sounds like it.
Yes.
Maybe you have an adventure game you should be talking about here.
Right. Ben Kuhn says, I sure want to go. I would take boxes and boxes, yes, and get them autographed. Yeah, well, we'll see who all shows up, and then
if we think that's going to happen, we'll have to get rubber stamps made of our signatures.
No, well, okay, we can always we have cards we can give away, too, with our signatures.
Yeah, we give away stickers, and we'll sign the stickers.
Yes, we do. Yeah, we still have a lot of
Here's
stickers.
the one we did for Tilly's Tale that we made a bunch of, and have mostly not used, because we haven't sent out much in the way of physical merchandise.
Thank you, somebody, Jen. I couldn't even read it up there.
Jen.
It hasn't come. She just, it didn't display here.
Oh.
Interesting. I just saw it flash on the screen.
Interesting. Well, thank you, Jen, for whoever it was.
Yeah, whoever you are, I couldn't quite catch your name, and it didn't display, but that's weird.
Okay. Anyway, so we liked everyone there. Occasionally it was a love-hate relationship, like with certain managers. But
Jen out of 10. I love that name.
Oh, Jen out of 10. Yes.
Yes, that was me. Happy to be here.
Jen out of 10 is a streamer who sometimes does Sierra games. Did King's Quest and did some Quest for Glory streams, which someone linked to, and then I clicked on the link and it didn't take us there. So,
but you could check her out on this thing. You too can watch a Twitch thing of people playing.
Yeah,
games.
we're probably supposed to take clips from our videos and save them off and keep them up on Twitch so that people can find them. But otherwise, you go to our YouTube channel, which is Hero U Rogue to Redemption on YouTube. It's at Hero_U. YouTube.com/. I think that'll work. Let me just try it.
Yes.
So YouTube.com/at Hero_U_game. Here we go.
Boy, that's tough.
Okay.
Hero U!
Haro!
Game!
When we first wanted to get the Hero U website, we found out there was someone whose family name was Haru, I think from Turkey, that owned the website. And eventually they gave it up and we managed to get HeroU.com.
Yeah. Tosh says, Jen also discovered the bug in...
Bugs in our games?
Where you can escape getting squished by the Antwerp by throwing a rock and then moonwalking off the side of the screen. Congratulations!
Who is to say that is a bug? I would call that a feature.
Yes, you can escape death. Yes,
we clearly set it up so that if you were clever enough
to do a totally random act,
that you could get away.
Yes.
Moonwalking.
Yeah. When working on the Quest for Glory games, how much, if at all, could you direct, for example, the art and music teams? In addition to stories themselves, the games have very beautiful art and music throughout them. For Hero U, we did the art. I mean, the art was right there, right in our faces. We were there, and we could get things done to just how we wanted them. We had a great team. I mean, Ken Nishaway and Jerry Moore and Jeff.
Cindy Walker and Jeff Crow. And
they were minor. Most of the art was done by Ken and
Jerry.
So they were right beside us, and we worked there. Quest for Glory 2.
Didn't they make boutique ice cream as well, Ken and Jerry?
That you'd think, yeah.
Yeah. Ken Nishaway also is another alumnus who is no longer with us. Passed away quite a few years ago.
Yeah. And then, let's see. For 2, we did preliminary designs. And the art team was segregated off into their own little space. All the designs of the original sketches and things I had full approval, right? But the minute it came away from that, it was I got in trouble for actually trying to get art.
Well, it was all game by game. So Heroes Quest, everybody was right there.
Yes.
Quest for Glory 2, we were completely segregated. And if a programmer wanted to request a piece of animation, they had a hierarchy. The programmer had to come to me as the lead programmer. I don't think I needed Lori's approval.
No.
But then I had to go.
I was cut out of that. Yes.
I had to go to Ken Nishaway, who was the lead artist,
and
he would assign an artist to do it, and then the artist would give it to Ken along with a paper model sheet that gave the the numbers that the programmers needed, the ID numbers for it, and a Xerox sketch of the animation that was completely unreadable pretty much, and that would be passed on to me, and then I would pass it on to the programmer, and then the programmer would sit there and scratch their heads. Sometimes it was me, it was the programmer, and try to figure out what the heck that art was and how it was supposed to be used.
We can go into that more when we actually do the Quest for Glory 2.
Quest for Glory 2 was the nightmare management situation. But again,
every game was totally different. Quest for Glory 3, I could go into the art room and give them, and watch what they're doing, but I didn't have much say in the matter. Quest for Glory 4, I had a good relationship with Mark Hudgens, and I let him go his way. I mean, I wasn't too fond of initially the cartoony characters, but his statement of that this is a style that will really make it. I love the backgrounds, and I really worked with the lead animator who was doing the character design. So yeah.
So Quest for Glory 3, I had no say in until very late in the game when they brought me off of my Sega Genesis CD project to do proofreading and stuff, and I couldn't even get programming done. If I was trying to work with the programmers to get something done, I had to go through our producer, who basically said, "Don't talk to the programmers." And
it was interesting. It was always an up and down nightmare. And Roadwork Gaming says, I'm imagining that scene from The Simpsons where Bill Gates buys out Homer, but it's Corey standing over some poor Turkish guy.
You could think of that, but think of Ken Williams instead of Corey.
Yes. Totally an Easter egg, yes. A feature, I love it, yes.
That was way back when.
Yes, I know. All those names you read on the screen just playing Larry 3, who you always just thought were immortal, suddenly gone. Ah, yes.
Alas.
But they are. They are immortal. Their memories will never die as long as there are people
who play these games. Our games will keep us going.
That's the best kind of immortality.
Till the end of time.
I mean, it beats living to the wish of forever living forever, but did not wish for eternal youth and withered away to being a grasshopper.
Oh, yes.
That's the kind of, you do not wish for certain things like total real immortality. There's always a catch to that, yes.
Yeah, the phrase we always had in our D&D games, be careful what you wish for, you might get it.
Yep. Worst bug I saw was a ton of missing audio resource messages when testing Quest for Glory 4 CD on an office computer with Windows 2000. Oh boy, yeah,
Well,
well.
and it was always a challenge. These games were built in a certain time, and they were, done on older computers. And as newer Windows came in, and we didn't have Windows. The first games were on MS DOS, and then Windows 3.1 came out. So Windows 3.1 being the first actually usable and stable version. So you can imagine all the stuff Microsoft went before that. There was a truism back in the day: never buy any product from Microsoft that has 1.0 on it.
Yes.
Um,
Brainiac says obviously the CD was unable to properly contain all the awesomeness of John Rhys Davis.
Now there we go.
It clearly, I mean, sounds like during Quest for Glory 2, Sierra was trying to more closely emulate a larger company, and perhaps it was getting larger, and trying to enforce more structure, whether for good or ill. True. And it was trying to emulate Hollywood, because we had Bill Davis now in charge of the art department.
Who was brought in there because Ken Williams wanted to emulate Hollywood.
Correct. So therefore, we were trying to do a system that would work, that is just like a Hollywood, animated studio would work. And we all know, if you've read anything about
Hollywood,
Hollywood, or how it was like, what it was like to work for Disney or any of those studios. Don't ask about Bullwinkle and that company, the J. Ward Company. They were nightmares to work at. So it isn't just our industry.
Yeah.
So, yeah, they wanted to do just like Hollywood, but that was not necessarily the ideal working spot.
Yeah, and I always thought that, game developers were particularly put up on because, we were expected to work 50 to 60 hours and as exempt employees did not get overtime and so on. And then I started hearing from people in many, many other industries, and it seems like that game industry not unique by any means.
No.
A lot of people work, a lot of unpaid overtime, or paid overtime. Either way, it's still very hard work.
Brainiac says art is indeed one of the best ways to achieve immortality. Yes. And Edenwaith said, I just found out that one of the founding members of Depeche Mode passed away a few years ago. Okay. Another stark reminder of the passage of time. But for artists, music, games, authors, etc., their works will outlive them. A piece of them lives on. It was like, the interesting thing was when Michael, our son, was living with us at the time, instead of being an adult going off its own way, his music spanned the decades. And, the music that we listened to as a kid all the way up to modern music, that he loved all of them. So
Michael was a big fan of Led Zeppelin.
Yeah.
And Ringo Starr was featured in the latest issue of the AARP magazine for
he's
old people, and he still looks pretty good.
Yep.
And was Love, Peace, and Broccoli. He said he's at this point he's 99% made of broccoli.
I see.
Okay. So still has a sense of humor. John Lennon, of course, was shot down long ago in his prime.
But these people are immortal.
But whether living or dying, they're still they'll be with us forever.
Yep. It took Microsoft 3 times to get a somewhat usable version of their software. Yeah, well, DOS 5 plus Windows 3.1 equals the true and thankfully brief darkest age of Microsoft.
And DOS 6.22 plus Windows 3.11 Network Edition was the good times before Win95 kicked them out.
Okay.
Win95 was a good product and was very successful. And Windows 2000 was good, and meanwhile they had all these other versions in between.
Oh well.
Windows 98 and Windows XP was supposed to be pretty good, but there was the one I can't even remember the name of it. There was a
couple didn't last.
A couple were abominations.
Yes. Phantom Beaver says, I know you worked on with Legend Entertainment's awesome Shannara game as well, but did you also have more of a leading role in that process, and how did working on that compare to working at Sierra?
We had more of a leading role at Shannara than any of the other Sierra games. Because
we had FAR Entertainment!
Yeah, FAR, Flying Aardvark Ranch Entertainment. Okay, so we were effectively a satellite office of Legend. We subleased an attic in a building from Bob Heitman, who I had worked with at Sierra. And then Bob came to work for me, so that's gone back and forth several times. And hired Doug Herring, who did Laura Bow and other stuff at Sierra, and as our art director, and Doug.
So we were basically in charge.
We were our own company.
So we knew what we were getting into.
It was our own studio, I believe.
Our own studio. Yeah, we did everything on that except pay for it. Yep.
And I mean, we paid all the bills, but we got the money from Legend to pay them with.
Paid overtime is good when you're young, unless it's every week. Paid overtime is good for anybody. If you're going to have to work, you might as well get paid for it and have some compensation. And unlike us, Valiant Cheese says, I felt like 98 was a fairly solid iteration on 95. I think so, because we had 98 forever.
Anyway, the point is that we didn't have any of those available to test on when we wrote these games. So games that were written for MS-DOS, pretty much a crapshoot as to whether they would work on any later system. And one of the issues was speed. Okay, our big thing when we were working there was, how do we support one of our biggest customers, the Radio Shack Tandy 1000 and Tandy 2000. And they were 4.77 megahertz, 8088 architecture, wasn't even 8086. So it was a 8-bit architecture, trying to run these games, and in Sierra the rule was you had to get 10 frames per second, and that was pretty much impossible on a Tandy 1000.
I see.
3 or 4 was pushing it, so come the Windows things a few years later, and all of a sudden we're on 16 and then 32 and then 64-bit processors, and
now you have to throttle them down.
Yeah, now we had to throttle them, and that had not, we attempted to handle all that when we wrote the stuff. We were working on a variety of systems,
but
a system that was 1,000 times faster than what we had available in 1988 was not necessarily compatible with those games.
And not predictable. I mean, it was no way we could deal with that at the time. Glory Quester says, never, ever use WinMe.
WinMe, yeah, that was the one. That was terrible. So DOSBox, there was a DOS 4GL or something like that, I think, was an extended version of DOS, and we were doing it. And then DOSBox came along and allowed more modern computers to play older games, and that I think is the core of the GOG and Steam versions of Quest for Glory.
Bill Kuhn says, I can't believe it took all the way until Windows 7 before there was a search function in the taskbar. Well, yeah. And Brainiac says, playing Kuba in Hero U right now, doing better than the poker tournament at MagFest last week.
Okay, well, if only you were making real money there, but, maybe it'll teach you skills. One of the best things for my bridge game, actually, was playing tournament poker, and I lost some money at tournament poker because I got 2 tenths and got scared and would fold hands I shouldn't have.
You're a wigwam. You're a TP. You're a wigwam. You're a TP. You're 2 tenths.
2 tenths. But yeah, my poker game made my bridge game better and vice versa.
Okay, let's see.
But I was going to say Flying Aardvark.
Yes, I was coming to that, yeah.
Go ahead.
All right. Where did the name come? Was that the name of the game at your home or studio?
Okay, so it all started when we were going house hunting.
In Oakhurst.
And there was a place. Coming into Oakhurst up 41, you go over a steep hill called Deadwood.
Perfect name, yes.
And then there was a dirt road going up the side of Deadwood, and there were a few houses up there. So one of the interesting houses we looked for when we were house hunting was this house perched on the side of a cliff up Deadwood, and we actually seriously considered it.
Yeah, it was actually a pretty nice house, and it had a great view.
That and one other, we basically ended up...
Any rate, yeah. But
we didn't get for one reason or another, but right. Anyway, we joked that we could buy that house, and then we could train aardvarks to fly by throwing them off the ledge, and the ones that learned to fly would survive and would breed more aardvarks.
Yes, so that's how we would breed the flying aardvarks.
Kind of cruel when you think back.
Well, but they were imaginary aardvarks, so therefore it wasn't a big deal.
So when we actually bought a house, it was down in a valley, but it had a steep hill leading down into it.
A steep dirt hill, winding road around the hill, yes.
Yeah, so not much better.
So it's still...
We said, aardvarks, we can train aardvarks here.
We can still train our flying aardvarks. They can learn to grow on the valley, and we'll take them up to the top of the hill and kick them off.
And because that was a 40-plus acre a former ranch, we decided it was the Flying Aardvark Ranch.
And so that's where we got the name. And then nobody wanted to be flying. When we formed the company to do Shannara, the employees were not thrilled at the idea of being the Flying Aardvark, ranch.
And being thrown off into
learning to
off
fly.
A cliff.
So therefore, we became Far Entertainment. Yes. And Brainiac says, "Well, that's unfair. I did quite good for quite a while
in the poker
tournament.
tournament.
Yes,
I got down the last 2 tables just before getting to finals. So
good.
Top does it. That's excellent.
Yeah. One hand in particular, I just messed with me. A not playing when I should have case by math and results.
And the whole thing with both bridge and poker is that you play by the odds, but the odds don't help you if your opponent needs, a 3 on the river to win and gets it, and that's, a 3-outer. There's one of 3 threes that he could get to win, or 4, and gets it. Well, that doesn't help the fact that you had the odds all the time.
Yep.
You may have had a, 80% or 90% chance of winning the hand, but sometimes 5 and 10% happen.
Yep, and Icy April says my fave was Win 98 SE. It never had problems with it, and could one could actually own it and customize it to its own needs. Yeah, probably the last Win that had that freedoms, probably.
Well, my statement about Microsoft is that Microsoft was a company designed to make smart people feel stupid. And that had to do with the fact that they gave you all of these very powerful operating systems with insufficient documentation, no way to get to the internals, and so if something went wrong with it, you couldn't fix it. Mm-hmm. And so in the early days with CPM and so on, we fixed our own computers. And if there was a problem, no problem. But once you got to any product from Microsoft, it either worked or it didn't, and when it didn't work, it was a problem.
Bill Kuhn says, I liked Win 98.
No, we don't care about that. Let's move on.
Oh, okay, well, yes. Tari says, to my great shame, Windows Me is the only version of Windows I ever paid good money for.
So no more Windows.
Well, wow. Lucky you.
Okay, so
All
Fan
right.
Beaver says, very unfortunate, neither the Shannara game nor Deathgate didn't sell well. There was a lot of stuff going on.
Yes.
Okay, we're in a transition period in the industry, and we're in a transition period for Legend Entertainment. They had been working with Random House, which is why they had all these cool licenses for Wheel of Time and Deathgate and Shannara and so on. And, managed to work with some really great and well-known authors. And then eventually Random House acquired them, but there were problems there because Random House coming out of the book industry and Legend coming out of the game industry, the rules are different.
Yes, when you pay people.
Yeah. Like, publishers are famous for paying their authors royalties, 6 months after after the check comes in, which is a year after they did the work.
Yes.
So, basically authors have to figure out how to survive 2 years before they see a penny on the work they've been doing.
You get a advance, and then you have to live off that advance until you get the actual product done. So.
And then advance might have been $3,000 or something.
Exactly.
If that.
So yeah. So yes.
So that's okay for an individual author, maybe or maybe not.
So yeah.
But it's definitely not okay when you are talking about a company that has dozens of people working for them.
And has to pay them, yes.
And has to pay them.
Legends' demise was Random House. And it was not because the games didn't sell, because they sold reasonably well. They just couldn't get money for them, effectively.
Shannara was, according to Bob Bates, Legend's first 50,000 seller.
Yeah, isn't that thrilling?
And unfortunately, the other thing that went on is we didn't quite get what the priorities were, and we thought that quality trumped schedule, and it turns out they absolutely positively had to make a certain date on Christmas deliveries because they paid tens of thousands of dollars to stores for bribes.
And this is a sort of thing that would be nice to be told up front that this was what they were doing.
But nobody believes that that's what you're in business for. You believe you're in business to make great quality entertainment.
Yeah, well, Edenwaite's, I think it would have been the SCI engine of the early 90s for Space Quest 4 and Quest for Glory 1 that seemed to have some of the worst speed-related bugs I encountered in the later 90s, which required utilities to slow down games. Well, partly no, we had problems all along with our games. We did not account for this stuff.
Yeah, we accounted for games to run on computers that were too slow to run them, but and obviously we were testing them on somewhat faster machines, but we didn't expect the machines would become Moore's law that says that processing speed doubles every 18 months, and speed doubles every speed and memory and so on double 18 months, and that held true for many decades.
Yep. Well, I'm pretty sure it doesn't hold long enough.
For AI, it's about every 3 months or maybe every month it doubles.
Phantom Beaver says, "What part of the U.S. do you live in now?" About 4 hours. Well, no, it's like 8 hours from south of Oakhurst.
What?
Where?
By how?
Driving.
It's we're 6 to 8 hours south.
6 to 8 hours south.
By driving, it's about 6 hours south.
Yeah, more like 8. And we're living in the suburbs, effectively, of San Diego.
Yeah, it was 4 hours to San Francisco, and it was 5 hours to L.A. when we lived there.
Right. Well.
And, so I guess
another
it's
hour to get through L.A. So
hour to get through 15 miles or 20 miles of L.A.
Yes. So then another hour to get through the last half of L.A. and an hour to get a half an hour or an hour to get to our home. So that's a good day. Yes. And
6 to 8 hours, depending on the
traffic. Cork Hammer says, "Love the Quest for Glory series and the first Hero U. Yay! Heroes Quest 1 was the catalyst that finally got my parents to let me play D&D back in the 90s. Congratulations! That's even better, yeah. I mean, if you get a good group. D&D is, again, one of those things that can be hell or heaven, depending upon your group.
And you can take different lessons away from it. So, if you play with certain groups, D&D is strictly a combat game, and it's all about power levels and combat. And if you play with other groups, it's entirely about storytelling, and combat is happens once in a while, and everywhere in between.
Yep. Brainiac says, "I'm not in any position to throw stones since I live in Greater Cincinnati. Known for the flying pig marathon." Greater Cincinnati.
It was a flying pig restaurant was it in on the way to Reno? Well, there were a few of those.
Yeah, there are. Yes. Cork Hammer says, "I'm sorry, I just wanted to catch one of these streams, and I wanted to say that." Well, we really like that.
Well, thank you.
We're really glad you made it to our streams too.
So we got it. I mean, we got into the game industry because of playing D&D.
Yeah.
So Lori played a variation called Arizona D&D, and I played the original D&D, and actually was some of the people that were like, next generation off of Gary Gygax. 1 or 2 degrees of separation, and then I played with various variations of it, and we ran we published a magazine called The Spellbook for the Mensa Fantasy Gaming Special Interest Group.
And that's all is how we got our job.
And ran at conventions and going to conventions. We met Carly Hawksdaughter, who was a freelance animator.
Thank you.
Doing work for Sierra.
You're now following us.
All right, we feel followed.
And Cattlecoke points out it's plus 24 hours to
recover
from LA. Yeah, really. What
LA
is Arizona
is a
D&D?
great
Arizona D&D was a homebrew from people that had, played D&D and said, okay, there's got to be a better system. So it was a system rather of leveling. It was a system of points. And so all your actions would, all your things would give you experience points, which you could in turn buy which spells, which skills you wanted to improve. It was all a very customizable, I will say. It was what is it? Accounting. It was definitely about accounting. You spent your hours afterwards trying to figure out what you wanted to spend your points on, but it was very engaging. And I did not like a real D&D when we actually played it, because I didn't like the cookie cutterness of the thing, that every character had the same skills, the same levels and things like that if you were playing it. So that's why we went into... That's what encouraged us to do this with what we were doing with our game systems.
And I started going to science fiction conventions, partly because my mom saw an advertisement for one and thought I might like it, but also because I'd heard that people played D&D at science fiction conventions. And that got me into meeting some people that were USC, University of Southern California students, who in turn got me into the gaming group at Caltech, which had their own variant called Warlock. And that was a pretty wide variation from Dungeons & Dragons, completely different rules, much more detailed percentage systems and stuff.
Yeah, it really was. One time I played it, it was really like you knew math majors and people who liked...
Physics majors.
Physics majors liked that game.
Let's say you cast a Cone of Cold. They would bring out the plexiglass template for Cone of Cold
to see where exactly
and place it on the board to find out exactly what it would hit. Your fireball, they decided that if the was a 20-foot radius, I think. I think it was a 20-foot radius, 40-foot diameter, huge. And we were in dungeons. Let's say there was a 10-foot ceiling, so they would figure out how much compression there was and how much flush it would do, and usually end up killing the party with it.
Yes, so good times, good games,
But all those, originally, Dungeons & Dragons didn't have very good distribution. Because remember that,
it had very few rules, actually.
Well, but those rule sets you couldn't get. Mm-hmm. Effectively, if you knew Gary Gygax, Arneson, or Dave Arneson, and lived up in near Lake Geneva, Wisconsin, or near Minneapolis, in St. Paul, that you could get hold of the original rules. And if you lived in California, it was months before any of the copies of D&D made it out to California. And somebody basically made a trip up to Chicago or Wisconsin and came back with a suitcase with, 4 or 5 copies of D&D, which then everybody photocopied.
Yeah.
And everybody made up their own house rules.
Yep.
As Lori said, the original rules were kind of incomprehensible. So all the house rules were different.
Everybody made their own game, effectively. Phantom Beaver says, it's nice to hear you are still theoretically at a distance where you could take a 1 to 2 day trip up to visit Oakhurst. And we can. Meanwhile, hello from Estonia.
Oh,
Yay!
cool.
I didn't realize you were there. I just wanted to say also that you're very awesome for doing these Twitch streams. This Quest for Glory is my favorite childhood game, and it seems wild that I can watch you live. Yes, it seems wild we can watch you, talk to you live when you're over in Estonia. I mean, really, we live in miracles,
And we started doing all this to publicize our new games, Hero U and Summer Days, but we do get paid by Twitch. We make a massive... I think it averages about $100 a month from all of our Twitch streams. If we Twitched every day, we could probably make like $800 a month.
Boy, yeah, we would make a living. We would pay for groceries. Yeah, that's what we do.
So I'm not exactly sure where Estonia is on the map. We are going to. We're doing a trip this spring. We're going up late May, I guess it is. We're going up the Danube, and we'll be going to Prague and Romania and various places along there. So that'll be interesting.
Yeah. First time chat says Rika the Ice Princess. Those names sound familiar. Some neat games you made. Thank you very much. We're glad you showed up. Welcome.
Yeah.
And Valiant Cheese.
We got some behind us on the bookshelves. We got over here. Over here we have Hero Road to Redemption, and we've got Quest for Glory and so on. And Castle Dr. Brain. We didn't mention that. That was my name.
Yes, and Mixed Up Fairy Tales.
Mixed Up Fairy Tales was Lori's.
The whole thing.
And and Shannara. Terry Brooks called it Shannara. Yeah. And we always thought it should be Shannara, but you go with what the author says.
The author, yeah.
And eventually, when they did the TV series, they convinced Terry Brooks that it really was Shannara, and he changed too. Okay.
Corkhammer says, agreeing with Catico, started with 2E, hated 3E, and so since we all liked Quest for Glory, we homebrewed rules for that, and I played every edition of D&D and Pathfinder since. Yes, exactly. Okay. That's definitely the right way to play D&D.
Yeah, we started with the 3 booklets. Actually, it was the 5. I came in about the time that Greyhawk and Blackmore supplements had been published. And then when they came out with Advanced Dungeons and Dragons, we were all really excited about it. I went to Gen Con and got one of the very first hardcover copies of the Monster Manual, which is the first book they printed, but TSR was on, such tight budgets, they could only afford to do 1 book at a time. So all they did was the Monster Manual.
Yeah, we had the original Monster Manual
at our house. And it had all this terminology in there, like, this, Inlier. Well, no, actually, it was the original books had Inlier because they misspelled lair. But Monster Manual had, like, rare, uncommon, and so on, without any definitions. And it had stats for the monsters without any definitions, and so we sort of worked that into our original D&D rules, and eventually they came out with, I think the Player's Handbook was next, and the Dungeon Master's Guide was third.
Yeah.
And you couldn't actually play Advanced D&T until you had all 3, but everybody got the books as they came out.
Yep. Skip says, there may not be God in Quest for Glory, but there was Satan. Iblis from Quest for Glory 2 was the king of the genies, which is the king of the fallen race of Nephilim described in Genesis. I had never actually heard the term Nephilim because I didn't actually remember reading that in Genesis.
But we know Iblis from Arabian Nights tales.
Yes, they were definitely out of the Arabian Nights tales. And Nephilim I know because of Diablo, and how they have integrated the Diablo characters with Heroes of the Storm, which we played. So, yeah. And Aziza shows up and says hello, and we all thank her for showing up. Yes. Estonia is one of the Baltic republics.
Yes, I was aware of that. I just can't exactly place it on a map.
Yeah, in the northeastern Europe. Yes, that's
we'll be going kind of near Poland. Interestingly, when I was in high school, I had a choice because I was alternating between they were in between our class schedules, so I was alternating between the 10th and 11th grade class and the 11th and 12th grade class in U.S. terms. And the younger class, which probably would have been more in my group, studied Mozart and Prague and had the class trip to Prague that actually would have been really cool in hindsight. But the older group had the class trip to Rome, and I ended up going to that one. Lori is looking up in Estonia.
I was going to
actually... the flag there.
Oh, good. That makes it much easier.
Their flag appears to be white, blue, and black. Yeah. Unless it's just blue and black.
There it is. I should know these things.
There you are.
Okay.
Oh, it's way up north. It's actually relatively close to Helsinki.
Oh, my gosh. I would have been so wrong.
Yeah.
Oh, well.
So anyway, it's way up there. Estonia, we had no idea.
We would have put it on the wrong place.
Near Finland and near Sweden.
We would have put it on the wrong part of the map. Well, near Latvia, yeah.
It's north of Belarus. Fortunately, you got Latvia in between because there's bad things going on. Well, you're right by Russia, though.
Yeah.
Right by St. Petersburg. So, fun times there in Eastern Europe right now.
Always.
So anyway, I could have gone to Prague. I instead went to Rome. but it was very interesting. And as I've gotten older, I've learned more about Prague, and it sounds like quite an exciting, interesting place. A lot of history. Sybil Seeker has started a new playthrough of Hero U.
Good. And the Ice Princess says, I played Shanara like that. I learned about sassafras. Okay. I didn't. Okay. And
We had
Fanta
sassafras tea when we were kids.
Yeah. Have fun in Czechia and Romania. And if you like beer, Czechia has great beer for cheap prices. Estonia's a bit further north, as well we see, up above, way above where we're going to go. But, shame we can't, we are not coming near you.
I think your mouse cursor is close to where we're going to end up.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, it's just about Australia. Let's see. Sybil Seeker says, I started the new playthrough of Hero U, hoping to find any secrets or puns I'd missed. I was wondering if there was a difference in story if I tried to befriend Sosi. So far, he still hates me. I
think that's kind of a lost opportunity because you really can't do it.
Well, then there's a reason for that, because he really is. There's no real villain in the game, but he's as close to the real villain that you get.
And when we were brainstorming this and thinking about doing an entire series of Hero U games, that we have a role for Sosi for the later games.
Yes, he's going to be in the second game if we ever do the second game.
In which he is even more villainous.
Yes, or at least has a role to play. Regardless of whether he's even more villainous, he is the same Sosi. So, since he couldn't have a real character arc in this game, we did not let you actually.
And people have complained that we sort of wimped out on Sosi, and this kind of he just becomes a loser, and yeah.
Well, but he doesn't learn from his mistakes. Let's put it this way. So you can't redeem him.
So a little imperfect, but he's still. I mean, I think he potentially. As it is, he is a very interesting character that has a lot more depth to him than you can see in one game.
Yep, and that's a problem, because if you can't continue the series, which is what that was the horrible thing about Quest for Glory. We never knew if we were going to be another game in the series. And we were always planning on it, so yeah. Sosi is Bruno. Yeah, well, there's a real resemblance there.
There's a resemblance, but they're different personalities.
Just wait until Hero U 5. Well, we're not, let's see. He would actually carry over into 2. He's one of the few characters that would carry over into 2. That were students. Because the classes we have are fairly segregated in their sense. It's what Summer Days was doing, as opposed to the Hero U series proper. Summer Days was more about meeting people from other classes and things like that. And the main Hero U storylines was all about intensive, this is what it is to be a wizard at the school, which was what the second game would be.
One of our big supporters from Germany who put in thousands of dollars, lots of money to help us do the game, but unfortunately, thousands or even tens of thousands of dollars doesn't go much towards a million or multi-million-dollar budget.
Yeah.
And he was wanted us to have a lot more interaction with students from the other classes and have other people in the hallways besides the rogues, and thought the school felt empty. And I said, yeah, I got us our $100 million film budget, and our crew of 200 or 300 people working on it, and or thousands, and we'll make a real movie. But the thing with the movie is the movie just has one storyline. They don't have player choice, and so it's actually kind of amazing we can do anything like what we do.
Yeah, and I mean, and when I go back and look at Hero U, as rich as it is, that's like, my God, that was a lot of work.
Yeah, it was a huge, complex game.
Valiant Cheese says, how has Summer Days gone in general, if you feel comfortable talking about it?
So it started out about here, and from there it went, whoop!
Remember,
we've sold a few hundred copies, I think.
More than that, haven't we?
Not very many more than that.
But remember, we pre-sold it.
Yeah.
So really, we made all our money up front.
We made the money. We got the $100,000 Kickstarter that we did on it.
Yes.
Of which about 50 to 60,000 actually goes into making the game. And we only spent about $250,000, so we lost a lot less money on Summer Days than we did on Road to Redemption.
There we go. That's the way we should look at it. Yes.
Road to Redemption has sold, besides the Kickstarter, or along with the Kickstarter, probably about 20 or 30,000 copies, and would have broken even about 50,000. So it's, in order to win big, you have to go big, but unfortunately, you also have, if you go big and you don't win big, you lose big.
Yeah.
So it's a question of, whether this is a career or a hobby. And I've kind of rethought it as this is our retirement hobby.
Yes. Corkhammer says, I really liked To Hate Sosie. Yes. Thomas was my favorite character, but Esme was my favorite. Thomas was my favorite story, but Esme was my favorite character, mostly thanks to her connection, however limited, to Quest for Glory 4. Well, there's she is directly related to Quest for Glory 4, so that works. And Valiant Cheese, that's it goes. Yes.
So we had the ongoing concern with Sierra. Felt like they were putting all of their marketing muscle and advertising into King's Quest and kind of ignoring all the other games. And we learned at a Comic-Con down in San Diego from Scott Murphy that they felt that Quest for Glory got all the publicity and Space Quest was ignored. And we were like, oh, God. So we were second tier, they were third tier, apparently. We never felt that at the time. Yeah. But it makes sense. So if you have a game that is selling 300,000 units, and by publicizing it, you can get a one-third growth and get it to sell 400,000 units, that's 100,000 additional sales. That'll pay for a lot of marketing. If you have a game that is selling 100,000 units, and you manage to get even better, you get a 50% increase in sales to 150,000, well, that's 50,000 units. That only pay for half as much marketing. So it makes sense to put your advertising dollars into one that's already successful.
Yeah. And it becomes self-fulfilling prophecy, and so
it becomes more successful.
Yeah. Skip says, I am the perfect Hero U customer. I contributed to the Kickstarters, but never actually played the games. I try to support creators who dare make adventure games. I am playing through Betrayed Alliance Book 2. Well, yes, we do. Yeah. Well, Book 1, yeah.
1, 2, they're digits.
Yeah, they're digits. It's a number. But yeah, well, but you're not necessarily a perfect player because, honestly, we do like people actually playing our games. But yes, we do a lot of supporting of other Kickstarters and things, games that we would never actually look at or play, unfortunately.
And Sybil
says, okay, I love how developed the characters are. I love role-playing Hero U. It's delightfully immersive.
And Valiant Cheese saying, haha, silver lining, talking about other stuff, but actually applies to that, because the silver lining of the fact that we were running our own company and also, dealing with family stuff and all kinds of things meant that it took us a long time to make Hero U. Mm-hmm. We thought it would be done in 18 months. It took us 5.5 years. And during that 5.5 years, we were able to really flesh out the game and get in a lot more dialogue and a lot more stuff.
We could fill it out the way it needed to be, yes.
So if you're actually efficient, Sierra insists on every game getting made in less than a year.
Yeah.
And it was always a big panic to get it out at all. And it's kind of a miracle that our games hold up as well as they do after 30, 40 years, because they were really rushed, all of them.
Yes. Valiant Cheese is close to breaking even is better than not being close. Exactly. And Brainiac says, that's what I asked the company responsible for making Bloodstained. Does the Kickstarter backings get included as part of the total sales? And probably not if you were doing real accounting.
Because we figure they pay the upfront development expenses, and then you have to rely on your sales to cover all the expenses after that upfront stuff. And
so it should not really be part of the total sales, but if you're being realistic...
But if I'm trying to actually get any publisher to look at it or anything else, I give them the total number because... if they hear 10,000, it's like, oh. If they hear 20,000, it's okay. And if I was able to tell them 100,000, then some of them might kind of perk up and listen a little bit.
But mostly not.
But same thing with publishers not interested in picking up something that isn't already successful. Yeah. So you don't get investment in a product that you can't tell them that they're going to make 10 times or 100 times their investment back.
And Brainiac says hobby certainly makes sense. And Phantom Beaver says Jeff Bezos put in the money to save the TV show The Expanse from being canceled. I didn't hear that, so cool. Let's hope there's another millionaire, billionaire out there who really loves Quest for Glory, Hero U, or your other works and drops a bag of money on you so you could develop a dream project. Yes, we have been looking for that person for a while.
Yeah, I had somebody come in the YouTube comments and said that he was really interested in supporting us again another, and said how much it would cost. And I said basically, we did Hero U for $1 million, but it was on a shoestring, and really would take 2 to 5 to do it right. Probably $2 million, we could do it. Yeah. And he said, okay, so $2 million, okay. And then said, oh, well, how many did you sell? How much money did the previous game make? And oh, well, there's no money for an investor in there.
No.
So he would love to support us, but investors also want to at least have a chance.
Some money, yeah.
And we did have an investor come in at the very end of Hero U and put in quite a bit of money that was hoping, he was a big fan, but also was, hoping to make some money from it, and he's only gotten back a fraction of the money he put in.
We gave him what we could.
We paid him what we could, yeah. Yes.
Maybe I'm weird, but I never liked King's Quest. Ooh, this is an audience that's actually kind of weird to it. Don't always admit that one.
My small inheritance that we got after my mother passed away, I went to the investor.
Yes. So we pay back. We try to pay back our debts. Yes.
Yeah.
Let's see. The ultimate tier of Sierra games: 1, Quest for Glory series, and everything else. Yay!
Yay!
That's what we think is correct.
That is correct. Yep. I don't know. I would say that Christy Marx's Camelot or Conquest's games go up there. Yeah. Conquest of Camelot and Conquest of Longbow.
Yeah. And Valiant says, I don't want to live in a world where it's a normal thing for developers to hope for. It's also worth keeping in mind that kind of support never comes without strings attached and doesn't give the creatives freedom one might assume. Better be ownership rights, editorial control.
Yeah, neither does indie game development. Okay, so you start your own company, so you'll have total creative freedom, and you discover, well, there's no money to do anything that you want to do. So
as you would well know, Valiant having made your own games, you know how this goes. Yes. Let's see, and Cork Hammer says it was hit or miss for me. I don't think you're being weird. Yes, King's Quest did not catch me the same way, so I get it. Yes, and Phantom Beaver says, of course, that's a separate issue. And this was just daydreaming thoughts anyway. Exactly. We keep saying, oh, well, we will win the lottery when we win the lottery. But the problem with that theory is you actually
the problem with that theory is we're 68 now, and we're not kids anymore. And that if we had $10 million to make the be-all, end-all game, we wouldn't want to work 60-hour weeks anymore.
Yeah, but we would want to pay people to do it. So that's the difference. We would not need that $60 million for ourselves, and we just as soon pour it into a game. But the problem is you have to actually buy the lottery tickets to win the lottery, and we haven't got that part down yet.
Although Star Citizen has been pretty much, they've effectively won the lottery.
They've won it a couple times. Jeez. I really like Space Quest 1 through 5, too. Yeah. So there are other games to play. Valiant Cheese says, trying to pursue ongoing sustainability seems a lot better long-term strategy than hoping for a statistically unlikely huge success. Yes, and we've always gone with the theory that the long tail will eventually help pay for these things. Because they're not dying. These games are still out there. You can still buy them. They're not, they'll never be off the market.
Well, our ongoing sustainability comes from Social Security. And every month we get a check from the house we sold in Awani for at least the next 15 years.
Yeah.
And then and we get money for our Patreon. So it's time to advertise our Patreon.
Ah, okay.
You should all be participating in this Patreon, which I will link right here. where we post Lori's photography and talk about the games. My latest post, which announced the stream, but it was mainly about our first years at Sierra making Heroes Quest.
Yes, the
and
thing
Lori
we're
got
supposed
me
to be actually playing this game, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, but we
Lori
haven't
got
been...
me to write a pretty long
Yes,
blog.
you sure did.
I wrote about 3,000 or 4,000 words for that.
You get him started, he can really write. And I can't, you know. Yeah, really.
And, but I can't write in the games because Lori gets mad if anyone else works on it.
No, I don't get mad. It's just that if you don't work
it's not you.
It's not me. Let's see. You can be proud that you're doing honest work, says Phantom Beaver, instead of the road that Richard Garriott has been down for the last 15 to 20 years, including selling his own blood to fans for money.
Yikes.
Yeesh.
Well, okay, let's look at Richard Garriott. Okay, so Richard Garriott started out as a high school student making a Calabeth, and then turned that into Ultima, and then Ultima 2 he sold to Sierra, and then he started his own company, Origin Systems. So didn't really have a chance to grow up. We started the game industry when we were 30. So we already...
Richard Garriott got money.
Yeah.
And he had an absolutely incredible house.
At a mansion.
At a mansion that had all places to play D&D in.
And the best, secret rooms and stuff like that.
He spent his money well.
So, then in next generation of Richard Garriott, he started Ultima Online. And he had really ambitious plans for making the ultimate massively multiplayer game. So he worked at that, and I don't know whether he made any money at that. It was pretty popular for a while before EverQuest took over from it. And then, of course, World of Warcraft stole all the massively multiplayer fans from every other game. And then Richard did his next generation of massively multiplayer game, of which I don't remember the name, but he did an awful lot of honest work. I think he's entitled to some hobbies and leisure.
Mm-hmm. Or that Deus Ex Machina millionaire support. Yeah, we're not going to get that in farming. Having extra stakeholders who need to be paid also erodes the revenue you can make from your work, which makes sustainability more complicated to arrive at. Yes. And I've been lucky
you work out the deal so that the money first goes into funding the company and keeping it going, then goes out to investors, and then finally maybe the founders get something.
Yeah, but assuming the founders actually got paid for what they were doing in the first place, which we didn't. I've been lucky to be in a position to make what I want regardless, yes. When I've had external stakeholders, I've been able to negotiate not giving up the rights. That's good. The horrors of Ubisoft make Sierra look tame. I want to play Prince of Persia, The Lost Crown, but I don't want to give Ubisoft that money. Yeah, well.
Well, it's so we had one of our coworkers at Sierra come to us just after she had signed a new contract with them that was terrible terms, and she kept saying, "I sold my soul to the devil."
What? That's me.
No,
that was me.
It was Gano first.
No, we gave her that one, and then she.
We gave her that line.
Yes.
Okay, we got that line from the real Ghostbusters, of course.
Right. Yes.
Which was a wonderful TV show. But the point being that if you're trying to make games, so you're making games, but you're also trying to run a business and sell them. And the question is, are you pure of heart and doing the best things for all your employees and all your developers and your fans?
Make money?
Or are you actually making money?
And stay in business, yes.
So Ubisoft and Electronic Arts have many horror stories about them, but they're in business.
Yeah, they were in business forever. So
Electronic Arts still around?
I don't know. Kieran X says, I would definitely give you $100 million to make a Quest for Glory memo. Oh, no, well.
Roadworks Gaming says the trick is getting Corey off the WoW.
Yeah.
And, I've quit WoW several times, but Lori's pointed out to me that if I'm not sitting there playing WoW, I'll be sitting there playing Bridge, or going to the Bridge Club and playing live, which takes even more time. Or I'll be, doing something.
Yeah.
Whatever I'm doing, you need things to do with your life, and why not have fun doing it?
Yep.
And Lori plays well too. She's just not quite as addicted as I am, but pretty close.
Well, that's because I have other things to do.
Lori does ceramics. She
I do
plants succulents.
I do art. I do other stuff. So yeah, but yeah.
So only a little bit of any of our time goes into the games. We're not very serious about it right now because we know that our games are money losing. So it's
but we are working on them, and we do have 2 people that are our employees that are working on it.
And we actually pay them.
And we pay them.
Sort of.
So, we're certainly paying our artists.
We pay our artist well. He's a full-time. And then we have a part-time programmer who came in at $19.90 level of pay and has insisted on staying there.
Yes. So
that he doesn't want any more money. He has a day job.
Yes, he has a real job. And ours is just a hobby. Yes. I enjoyed your latest Patreon post very much, says Belzar.
Good.
And
so I used to write stuff like that all the time for the School for Heroes. We had our quest log blog.
Yeah.
And I've reproduced a few of those on here, but my rule on that was to restrict them to 1,500 words. And this one, I was talking about a complicated subject, so I decided to actually spend more words on it.
And Valiant says, I have to open to read when I have time. Looking forward to it. Good. And I think the PayPal they're going to PayPal the $3 million. Or however much. Yes. No, send it to their
let's see. We do have it's PayPal at hero-u.com.
Yeah, if you ever want to send us money directly. And Arlo says that Old Prague is interesting because you're walking around a whole city of buildings that date to the 1600s. You can walk down the street and there's an ancient medieval bar that's still standing. You opt out and turn the corner and there's a building dating to the 1400s that you can eat in. But it's definitely a big tourist city. Maybe good to spend a few nights in it with your first trip to Europe. Well, that's the whole thing. I'm going to take my camera and I am just
I think we got 1 or 2 nights there. We're actually going to be on a riverboat. Yeah, it's a small ship or a large boat cruising the Danube.
And Brainiac says, the real Ghostbusters is delightful, especially the first 2 years, which was written by J. Michael Straczynski and his company that, his best friends.
Robot? No. That was Buffy.
Bad Robot is neither of those.
Is it?
Bad Robot is a lens flare guy, so But Slimer, yes. But, Real Ghostbusters was very sophisticated, written for adults, but
the later seasons were more of the Slimer and more slapstick and
the
animation not as good.
Because the heads of the company said, well, this should be more kid friendly. And when they went kid-friendly, they went stupid. So, yeah.
Well, our favorite was, I think, in the second year of the Real Ghostbusters, they did the Halloween special, and that's amazing. Mm-hmm. Definitely tracked down the Real Ghostbusters Halloween special.
It wasn't totally amazing. It was
had great lines.
Yeah, it had great lines. It has some of the best lines.
So much for that moral dilemma.
Oh, yes. Moonstriker Lily says, it's not like giving Chick-fil-A money. It seems silly to complain about their not having chicken nuggies if you're going to boycott them. Yeah, I think you should not you should not complain about a company you're boycotting. If you're playing
Hero U, you should not boycott Hero U at the same time. Yeah. That's called piracy.
EA's supreme irony was that they were founded because the man types in the business at that time screwed him over one too many times, so they made a corporation to get proper credit and acknowledgement, and they became the man.
They are the man,
They became the man years ago. Boy. Become what you hate, live long enough to see yourself, become the villain, etc., and all that. And they were villains in the days of Hero U.
And of course, we don't know. We have the story of the founding of Electronic Arts, and it's all about the artists, and we don't know how much of that's just publicity.
Story, it makes storytelling. Story, yes, let's see. Thanks for looking after your people. Yes, well, we
look
try.
Too deeply into the abyss, and the abyss will look into you.
Yes, well, what you will become the abyss is much different, yeah. And let's see, and like...
Bad Robots is J. Abrams?
Yes, Abrams. Thank you, yes.
That is it, okay.
Yep, you guys are correct. I was in Prague, this is Santa Bieber, in December 6, 2016, during the last weekend when smoking indoors at restaurants was still allowed. it was a very interesting sight to see. People making the most of those 2
Right.
hours. That would be great, though, to have your camera about there, because you'd have this haze of smoke all around these people. It would be really, really cool for that visual effect.
If you could hold your camera still while you're coughing.
Yeah, that's a problem.
So Las Vegas, when we used to go there, and was horrible for smoke. And many of the places there are much better now, but
well, they outlawed it inside.
Yeah, and I went to a bridge tournament in Cincinnati one year, and Cincinnati, Ohio, is down at the south end of Ohio and is right on the border between the north and the south. So it's the Rust Belt, but it's just above the south. And there was smoke everywhere, and it was almost not just that smoking was not disallowed, but it was almost required.
What year was that?
I don't know.
When you were a kid?
No. This was 90s or so.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, probably Sierra years.
Okay.
I went to a national bridge tournament there with Richard.
Oh, all right. And Arlo says, sailing down the Danube will be interesting. I had a 16-year-old girl come onto me, and her mother yelled at me to go back to my country for refusing. Europe doesn't share our values. Oh,
yeah, when I visited East Berlin, when I was an exchange student in West Berlin, I had people running up to me asking whether I, wanted to sell my, if I had blue jeans for sale or anything like that. They were desperate for Western merchandise.
And Skip says, EA were villains in the days of Ultima Online.
That's true.
Exactly, yes.
And in Will Wright, The Sims, when they acquired, what was the company that did The Sims originally? Anyway, it was, but Will Wright's company that made The Sims got acquired by Electronic Arts, and they kind of turned it into bureaucracy, the management of that. And Star Wars: The Old Republic, game we really liked. Gordon Walton was working there at the time. He was one of the executive producers. And the company was basically getting ready to shut down the project. And he told us a story that he and the other executive producer discussed and said, one of us is going to have to be a human sacrifice to keep this project going. And Gordon says he volunteered. Essentially let them flay and pillory him and kick him out on a rail so that the project would keep going.
Yep.
And turned into a great game, but
Phantom Beaver says, the important thing to note about Europe, however, is that we don't have 27 states. We have 27 independent countries with their own laws, traditions, histories, etc. That sounds like a very odd experience. Yes, well, it's even worse than the United States in that sense.
Yeah,
they have their own culture, and they had their chance to have those things totally unique and their own for many, many, since time began.
Yeah, we will not be learning all of the 6 or 8 languages that we'll be encountering on the course of our trip.
Yeah, everyone, I tell it to, thinks that was strange. That was how I felt at the time, but the girl, her mother, and the bartender all acted like it was normal. And the bartender seemed to think I had been rude by not sleeping with her after she left. Well,
I got a phone call at my host parents in Berlin from probably a 14-year-old girl who wanted to get together with me and told me she loved me on the phone. Ich liebe dich. It's like, okay, maybe not.
Yes.
But I might have missed out on a great opportunity.
Oh, wow. Yeah,
maybe I would have stayed in Germany.
Greetings from Greater Cincy. We're the southwestern corner.
Oh, hold on. But I want to talk about the Sleeping with 16-year-old. And that was Robert Heinlein's Glory Road. And that has the incident in which the hero who's, in love with the beautiful woman who, he calls princess and later turns out to be a princess. And the landlord they're with wants to offers his 3 daughters to the guy and one of them was 14 and he turns them down and when the woman hears about this, she's aghast and says, "Oh my God, we got to get out of here now. You have just given them the greatest mortal insult possible." So different cultures.
And different stories, yes. Let's see.
Glory Road is a great book. I highly recommend it.
We're the southwestern corner of Ohio, one of the three big C's of the state. Columbus and Cleveland are the other two. Basically a diagonal line across the state. Of course, I was born in Steubenville, Ohio, which only because it was across the river from West Virginia.
Where they actually lived in West Virginia, yeah.
Maxis.
So OSU is Cincinnati still a lot of smoke, a lot of places, or is it mostly smoke-free these days?
Golden Drake says there was likely some context lost in translation or something. Yes, yes. I wouldn't overthink it, though. Just shrug and move on. Yes, exactly. Don't take real offense, yes. And no need to paint all of Europe with that brush. Yeah. And Arlo says, yes, possibly. Her mother did say, stop judging a culture you don't understand before yelling at me to go back to my country.
Well, they do that in the U.S.
Yes, and then the bartender
to citizens
asked, don't you think it's wrong to go to another culture and judge them after she left? I don't think I'd been judgy. My highest principle is not to judge other cultures, but all week long, people on the ship had been telling me how bad America is, and I finally drew the line and said, we don't do this in America, when the girl came.
Well, the question was she hot?
Oh, that's the only question he'd ask. Yes, right. The first thing that...
other things would go through my mind.
And Elzar said the first thing... that crossed my mind with Glory Road was the Bruce Springsteen song. Yes, well.
I do know that. So the other major Heinlein book was "The Moon Is a Harsh Mistress," which always makes me think of the Judy Collins song "The Moon Is a Harsh Mistress," both of which were based on the same poem.
Yeah. Arlo says the girl was from Monaco, and this took place in Budapest, where the legal age is 14. For context, yeah, they're different places. Cork Hammer says, good gods, another Ohioan? I'm on the opposite end of you in the other big C, Cleveland, yes.
Our friend Jim, who stayed with us for quite a long time and collaborated on Shannara, was from Cleveland.
Definitely a Cleveland person, yes.
He's a big Indians fan.
What bars are left in Columbus are all smoke-free, I believe. A lot of the South Campus locales got bulldozed a lot.
Columbus. I think he said Cincinnati.
Oh, well, yeah, he said Cincinnati.
He did.
Yeah. All right. And Phantom Beaver says, it's possible you met Romani people that have very traditional values, and they have big communities, especially in Romania, and I assume in neighboring countries as well. And, yes... Hail and well met to other Ohioans.
You mean there's a relationship between Romani and Romania?
Maybe. How about we actually start playing our game because we got to the end of the things?
Because we're almost out of time. Oh, okay.
We
can play for an hour.
Yes. I think Lori Cole knows a lot about, I lost it there, the history and culture of Europe from her research for Quest for Glory 1 and 4. Well, yeah, but they were localized history and mostly mythology and pop culture, too, of those places, too. So it's not necessarily accurate history. I mean, at the time, after all...
Cheese is heading out.
Oh,
Thanks for coming.
Thank you for coming. Yes, at the time, I was limited to those books I could get from a library in a very small town, or what books I could order, and Amazon wasn't around, so yeah. You better...
Steubenville is the birthplace of Ohio Valley Pizza.
Oh, I've had to apologize to my friends for that, I see. Lots of love for Heroes Quest and Quest for Glory 1.
Usually I set these up in advance, but...
I didn't do it. All right, let's see. And if anyone's curious, there's a whole thing on Ohio Valley Pizza. Yeah. When I hear Steubenville, pizza isn't what comes to mind. Yeah, well.
I would end up with 2 cups of it.
I don't know how you did this. You successfully did this.
And it wouldn't allow me to delete the other one.
Oh, great. All right. And we're saying bye to Valiant Cheese over there in the chat thing. And we're setting up a wizard for GOG. Maybe we didn't play it on GOG last time.
I think we did.
Okay, fine. Well, this is going to take a little bit. We're extracting files, yes. I bet Phantom Beaver about that thing is I bet they could work in Monaco because in reality there are only roughly 30,000 people who live in Monaco, and it is a very, very wealthy region. So I doubt you'd find them trying to hand over their underage daughters to complete strangers. Yeah, really. And Arlo says, oh, also, after the girl started making eyes at me, the bartender got her to say she was still a virgin. Oh, yes. And then told her the purpose of life is to have sex with as many people as possible.
Ah.
That's what made me say, hold on, this is an underage girl. Definitely didn't want to seem super traditional. Oof. Yes. And Brainiac says, I've never bought Quest for Glory on GOG or Steam simply because my anthology disc is still fully functional. Well, yeah. As are the Quest for Glory 5 discs. Cool. It's nice to know they've survived all these years. All right. Not getting any sound, though.
No. They're setting. Oh, well, of course. And of course, it's not showing up there. Okay, this is definitely the version we were playing.
Okay, fine. We'll have to set this back
I can come over here and go to desktop. And then we'll come over to, look at all these windows
Where
here.
you see that. They don't need to be there. Oh, yeah. Cancel installation?
Yeah, maybe. Rolling back changes.
Let's see. I've gifted Quest for Glory and Hero U to 2 separate friends. If they don't play them, at least it's pushing the numbers. Thank you very much. Yes, the numbers are good. I keep them as well as I can. I have no doubt they'll rot at some point, but they haven't yet. It's just really impressive. It also says that technology was, actually really a good technology.
I don't know. Where do I keep these things?
What are you looking for?
Oh, I was going to go look for the files, but
no.
See if I could get the sound working.
Don't you need to do it by way of adjusting, the sound settings? And
no,
the sound settings are off?
I don't think that's the problem.
Well, try and find out.
Speakers, Realtek audio. I tested that.
Okay, fine. Let's see.
What if I do Control Enter? Or maybe it's Alt Enter. I don't remember. Alt Enter. Day 2 morning at the end.
Well, I guess
this is where we were last playing.
No sound.
But there is no sound. Let's go see file game.
Sound volume.
Sound volume.
Yeah,
16,
it's as high as it can get. So.
Which it shouldn't be. We went 5,
But it doesn't matter if you can't hear anything. So we'll just. But that means the better to talk. But you don't get to appreciate the music, which you all love. Yes. Just seeing that interface brings back fond memories. Yeah, well. Yes, all that pixelated slash diagonals and things like that.
And by the way, this looks especially good on our monitor where we're running Streamlabs rather than on the screen. You're saying if you have this full screen, it's really pixelated. But it didn't look like that on the machines of the day because your screens were about a quarter of the size.
Yep.
So did you want me to get sound?
No, dog. We're going to talk anyway. We're going to talk.
Okay, so here we go.
Brainiac says one of the biggest debates among the fandom often comes down to EGA versus VGA, even more than the parser versus the point and click. That's interesting. It's hilarious watching the speedrunners come down entirely on whichever is faster, yes. And Phantom says, on a related note, does anyone here know of a YouTuber...
No, he doesn't know anything.
...who has done a recent blind playthrough of Quest for Glory 4. I'd love to find new people who play the game. Yeah, that would be very interesting.
Well, we're effectively blind players of Heroes Quest because it's been so long since we had anything to do with this.
Yeah.
Magic, well, that's got nothing to do with fighters. Here's a nice little old lady.
You could talk to the lady. Oh, God. I heard the magic sound.
Yeah, so did I. So we have sound effects but no music.
Weird. We'll go to, yeah.
Hi! Ask about lady. Zzz, she's asleep. We don't want to wake her up.
Grandma, yeah.
Grumph, snort.
That's definitely
we can,
a fish walk line there.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
This Adventurers Guild Hall.
Give Grandma soup. Oops.
You can read these.
This Adventurers Guild Hall reminds you of the one in your hometown. The traditional moose head and other stuffed animals, Saurus, troll, griffin, dragon, cheetar, and the terrible Antwerp adorn the walls.
That is, of course, a little joke there. It's a terrible Antwerp because it's a really terrible monster.
Yes. You see the registration book on the desk and the bulletin board full of job listings. The man seated by the fire must be the guild master. He is snoring.
Do you suppose he's married to the old lady?
No, I don't. Well, no, I never thought of that, actually.
The plaque under the moose says?
I don't believe you have music on this screen normally.
Okay.
Well, that would be good to know.
Courtesy of Sierra Online Prop Department. Okay, so the moose was an ongoing joke in Sierra games that pretty much all the games of the generation of King's Quest 4, Leisure Suit Larry 2, and so on, all had a moose on the wall somewhere. We actually had the artwork for the moose got handed down from game to game. So that moose... Yes, it was. We used that. That prop came from all those other games.
It was reinvented. Look at the pixelization, Corey. They didn't use that pixelization in the previous versions. So, yes, let's see.
No one responds. I will.
If you don't get the hero's theme when you leave Spielberg, then there's a problem. Okay. And my junior high typing class was too rigid and restrictive. You guys are the reasons I can type. Yeah, well, writing is the reasons I can type. I had half a semester of typing, which was enough to get me started.
Yeah, I did about the same.
This is certainly a weird one. You've never seen anything quite like it. The plaque reads, Antwerp, slain by 2 guys from Andromeda.
So that was our tie-in to Space Quest, and the idea was this is such a weird monster, it must have come from another planet.
Yeah. You never saw a Purposaurus before you came to Spielberg, but it looks like a really stupid monster. The plaque reads, Saurus slain by Hans Hafitten.
And there was a Hafitten door website for a long time that many Quest for Glory fans went to. Yes. So it's this one. This is the Cheetar.
It is like a panther's, but with a strong human-like quality. It's still really rather frightening. The plaque reads, Cheetar, slain by Wolfgang Abenteuer.
Now there's an actual dragon head.
Yes, even in death, the monster remains awesome. The plaque reads, Dragon slain by Baron Stefan von Spielberg.
So we had some real heroes in this town.
Yeah. Let's see. Naming collision. Hello, I see gaming and transpiring. In theory, it's mostly yakking.
Let's ask about adventure.
Let's see.
Ugh, I was so busy I didn't notice you come in. Welcome. It is so seldom that we have new adventurers here. Most people think this valley is cursed.
Okay. He's gonna shine his sword there, I guess.
Sword?
Yeah, well, he's polishing his sword.
That reminds me very little of the time old Schultz and I, that is that line I stole from, I as a tribute to Firesign Theater. They have a whole radio play that starts out. That reminds me very little. It's, wait a minute, it'll come to me.
Dad bought me these speed typing programs when I was a kid. Probably forked my timeline significantly. Yeah, really. Did you see the speed run of Quest for Glory 2 EGA? Broke the game, beating it in under 2 minutes.
Well, there we go.
Those QG.
Well, we're doing a slow play.
So that's what we called it, the slow play, because we'll never get through this.
Reward for Return of Lost Ring. Inquire at the healers.
Poster is a rather dusty and faded. The picture is of a small child with braids. Reward of 50 gold coins for the safe return of Elsa von Spielberg. Inquire at Spielberg Castle's gates. All right.
And we have 1 gold coin and 6 silvers. So 50 gold, that's a lot.
The Saurus's name was Barney. That's why he's purple, clearly. The combo interface in Quest for Glory 2 is the best of both worlds. It makes me wish there were combo interfaces in 3 and 4.
There is a dinosaur named Sinclair that wanders through in the VGA version that friend Richard Aronson was a big fan of the Dinosaurs TV show and snuck that in.
On a loosely related topic of inside jokes at Sierra, there was a reason that both Leisure Suit Larry 3 and Space Quest 3 ended up with the protagonist entering the real world and meeting Ken or Roberta at Sierra's and having the games authored. What was the inside joke at Sierra or something, or just coincidence? I think it was coincidence. I think they both, since we worked independently, it probably was a coincidence, and they both thought it was very, very funny. But certainly was the influence for why we kept it going in here.
Let's sign the adventurer's
logbook.
logbook.
Was that a sword all this time? I've been wondering. I assume it's a sword. It's got a pointy end, so yeah, really.
Who can tell with pixels? There's about 6 pixels of it you can see.
Imagination, yeah. Gotta. I mean, the fact that you can even tell that's a person is pretty impressive.
The rating this page looks very recent. It says, I, Ralph, that's my player's name, have come to Spielberg to become a hero. That's because we just signed the book. And this was a great moment of pride that we could have that modifiable world, that we would have a adventurer's log that you sign, and that once you do that, when you read the book, your signature is in there.
Yes, we really wanted to do this verisimilitude of real life here going here. And this is the highlight.
Only 40 years later, in World of Warcraft Dragonflight, you come into the embassy, the inn at the embassy at the beginning of Dragonflight.
And you get to sign
in the Adventurer's Logbook. And it does it by a menu.
Yes.
It says, what name do you want to fill in? It gives you about a dozen choices. And then it says, what date are you going to sign?
Yeah. So
and all
you
that
had that
stuff.
same thing.
And
yes.
it was all basically a variation on our logbook.
Yep. Let's see. I'm not sure how Levitate allows you to skip all the way to Rasir past the end boss.
Lemonade?
Levitate. Allows you to
Levitate. Levitate.
Magic, obviously.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I only realized last week the waiting icon was actually a monster rather than a shield. Yeah. You signed it with a flourish, yes. Well, professional voice cast acting adds a lot to the game, which is evident for Game 4. I still cherish King's Quest V for having the Sierra employees do the voices, with Lori being immortalized as Queen Isabella, yes. It was kind of funny, and of course you can't beat poor Richard Aronson doing that voice.
Yes, he was Cedric the Owl, and
destroyed his voice for that game. Yep. Most likely why HEDI asked her to voice Maud in their King's Quest, yes. Because they could get me. I'd work cheap, yes. This world felt real in many ways. Fantastic work. Thank you. We really appreciate it.
So this is context sensitivity. When I was just a couple feet away from the barber shop, I said read note. It told me about notes in general all through the town. And when I got right up by the note and said the same thing, read note, it says there's a sign on the door of the barber shop informing whoever reads it that the barber is out to lunch. The door is locked. This was one of the really clever features of SCI that Jeff Stevenson and Bob Heitman put together that is basically context sensitive, and it's
it's actually control areas.
It's control areas, and it's but a basically message passing system that lets each of the objects in the room try to respond to what you type.
So it was an early version of object-oriented programming, yes. Yep. Mark Crow mentioned that moving to Seattle was an adjustment. Like, you guys were open to sexual jokes in Seattle, in Oakhurst, but in Seattle, people were offended by the WD-40 robot shooting lasers out of her breasts. How did Leisure Larry survive the move to Seattle? It beats me if there were people.
Aldo was his own special. He had his own special relationship.
We never really tried to cross the boundaries, but I did get edited when we were doing Quest for Glory 5. So there were lines that I, couldn't get away with, like "Is that a sword in your pocket?" But other than that, By the way, who did the narration voice in King's Quest V? I don't know, so somebody will have to answer that for you.
Let's start with this.
The fact that Cedric caused literal damage in the real world just validates my position of kill the owl. And it was a poisonous roll, clearly. Cedric's voice lives rent-free in my head.
All right, give silver to beggar, he says.
Thanks. It's really tough trying to make a living here begging in this town since the brigands started scaring all the trade away. This used to be such a nice place to live. My advice to you is not to take up begging. It just doesn't pay. And don't go out at night. Reasonable advice.
Let's go. Ellie? Okay. Boy, boy, we sure didn't cover much.
Ask about begging. I mean, a beggar gets cashed only when others get cash, and nobody's got much money around here right now. His character kind of changed a bit when he got money. Yeah. Let's see. Yes.
This Kirby place must be an alley. You feel a strange, cold feeling here. You see some discarded barrels, and a beggar holds out a bowl towards you.
Did you give him a penny?
I did. I gave him a silver.
Oh, good. Wow, you're generous. Word of warning to you. Don't drink the dragon's breath.
Ooh, okay.
Important warning, safety tip there.
Control I. Yeah, yes. I think I gave him.
Just send poor Cedric to Gaming Purgatory. The only game available will be Codeman Iceman.
Codeman Iceman, okay.
Walrus says, I recorded a slow play of this a couple of years ago, and it's as great as ever. Well, this is probably slower than any one you could record. Yeah. Venomous. Yes, back to the poisonous versus venomous joke. Poor Corey is probably tired of hearing that distinction, and it's truly not very important in most contexts, but it makes for a great line.
Poisonous snake.
Yes. It's much... Poisonous was a better word than venomous.
Yeah, venomous just...
It doesn't have that ring, and word sounds are important for comment.
It matters.
Yeah. And Brainiac says, which is a pity. Naywar was delightful, and I no doubt that her voice actress would have enjoyed the saucier lines. And honestly, they only cut out a few.
Yeah, the actors and actresses have a total ball reading these lines. Right. Arlo says, I believe.
If you right-click on the brick, it gives you a message about how does this guy expect to make a living begging here? What was he expecting to make a living here anyway? How is he? Yes.
Well, of course, there's secrets to that alley.
Yeah. Drink it. Drink it!
Save early, save often.
Yeah.
I just want to play cards with the butcher and barber in here. I believe they're playing Crazy Eights.
Yeah, something
Go
fish.
Like go fish. Go fish.
Yes, exactly. Note present on day one. I'm not sure what triggers it. Maybe giving silver to the beggar? Ooh, interesting. I didn't know that. You never know what you can find in these games. So let's see. Okay, the bar is sticky. Yes. Secrets to the alley? No. Wait, was Sam one of the thieves? Actually, no. He was never intended.
I thought in the original version that we thought he was.
No.
He came back at night and stole money from
people. He was never one of the
All right, he's a daytime beggar.
He is a beggar, and he just went to where he made more profit.
So we basically described this as a seedy bar.
Yeah.
Smoke rising from the center cask behind the bar. Two gamblers playing cards. Bartender glares at you, as does the ugly goon on the left. The impression you are not welcome.
We have a customer at the bar that I don't know where he lives.
You see a crumpled piece of paper under the store.
Gosh, you found a secret piece of paper.
It's a text game. So take space.
Honest beggar, just like the fella in Conquest of the Longbow. It's a profession like any other. It was a profession. So and even though there were things that said
what does that note say?
Smooth out the piece of paper. It says B. He's starting to act suspicious. Better save this drop for emergencies. B.
So we have two people who both have the initial B, sending messages to each other.
Why do goons change to green skin for Quest for Glory 4? Well, we could say it was a regionalism.
What do you want? Ask about drinks.
In Goon Society, he's probably a Chad. Okay. It's possible that Arana's spell prevents the beggar from soliciting anywhere else. No.
Probably not.
No. I mean, you solicit in the alleyway.
The whole idea here is this place is impoverished. There's bad stuff going on. You're gradually learning that, hopefully, from talking to people.
And Enchantress and Ziza said, I never knew about that note. Now you learn something every day, don't you?
Oh, it was right there on the floor.
Yeah, can you see it? Or was that
just
little
like that little, and
floor?
you could probably look at that pile of vomit or whatever it is, or goo dripping off the chair.
The goo dripping
off. That might actually be significant that maybe somebody who drank the dragon's breath.
Yeah, I think so.
Got some of the finest ale in the valley, only one silver. Our world-famous troll sweat is always fresh. It's only 5 silvers. Dragon's breath is our specialty. It's Crusher's personal favorite. It's very hard to come by, so it'll cost you 25 silver. Cash up front.
Yeah.
Ask about Dragon's Breath. Maybe he'll just tell me the same thing. Yep.
Let's see.
Hi. That again, context sensitivity. If I just ask about drinks, he told me about all of them. If I ask about Dragon's Breath, tells me about that one. Pretty sophisticated for a 1989 game.
Yes, and Brainiac says, yes, the why did goons change color? It's probably just species variability, much like our own. They're kind of yellowish.
One well-aged house brew coming up.
Yeah, I figure it's a regionalism and nothing to do with the fact that the artists, were totally different on those projects.
And by the way, as far as the censorship, if you're doing games for Nintendo, you gotta specifically say whether you have things like alcohol in the game, and if you do, it's not suitable for kids.
Yep. Thank
the bartender and pay him for your beverage.
So we were not suitable for kids in a lot of our games.
This tastes as sour as it smells, and it burns your throat as you swallow it. Still, it isn't the worst beer you've ever drunk.
Okay, and you drank it.
Stand up for Odin.
Can you look at this guy over here? I don't know what it says if you look at the guy.
I'm stuck. There. Yep. Look at, man. There are several. Forget. Really up close. Nope.
Well, no, man, bar.
No one responds.
Yeah. It looks like Leisure Suit Larry there.
Maybe
it's
an
his
older
grandfather.
version.
His grandfather. Great grandfather, I think. That
Get
would be my
chair.
head canon now. It's the medieval ages. If you had him drink water, he'd come down with some disease. Yes, exactly. Let's see. I don't think we want to know about the worst booze the heroes ever had. Yes.
Goo.
And
not a pleasant sight. Okay, that sort of had a line, but it's probably generic for the game.
Yeah, well. McKiller says, I always thought it was cruel that the second note only shows up the morning after you save the Baronet, and if you don't find it right away, you miss an important meeting. That is a shame, and that's silly.
That's
probably
bad programming.
Yeah.
Bad design, really.
Yeah.
Okay, so programmers get blamed for stuff that sometimes.
Yeah, so can you buy the bigger?
But designers get blamed for stuff that's often in the program.
Right. Buy the bigger in the alley a drink. You can't because we don't have that program. Look at the drunk will do it. Oh, look at drunk. Thank you.
Okay.
This is why I do not play text adventures because I'm terrible at it. Yes.
Parsers are hard.
Skip says, no, I did not find the note in my original playthrough. Yes, I broke through the rock, the troll, and the minotaur. I was a fighter. I didn't need a key. Cool.
There's a fox north of the road. Hey, that wasn't there before. Help me, brave and... No, that's you.
Help me, brave and kind hero.
Look at fox.
The fox seems to be caught in a trap. Please help me, brave and kind hero.
No, help fox.
It's actually a really good-looking fox when you see it again, not against a tree. That was a bad place to put it.
Nope.
Okay.
Open. Trap.
Then we'll move over there.
You spring the trap, yes. First it moves you into a position where the animation will look good. So that's why it does this extraneous movement, is we have a generic kneel down and reach onto the ground.
Yes.
And that is used in a vast variety of situations because there were only a half a dozen or so animations for the most part for the hero. And that is because every hero animation has to be on every floppy disk of the game. And you do too much of that, and you have to add more floppy disks.
Phantom Beaver says, Quest for Glory games are definitely a lot more adult or teen-oriented than as it required you to use your brains versus Super Mario where you need to go right. Well, we always thought when we were making these games, our philosophy going into making these games is that we were making them for all ages. And if you were too young...
Mostly for people like us.
I mean, but if you were too young... You'd still have the fun of playing the game, which as you got older, you would get more of the nuances in that, which is what the whole point of,
Pretty for a screen and cute fox.
Yes, Rocky and Bullwinkle, the jokes there went over our heads entirely for most part when we were kids. and it was only later
But we
watching
still enjoyed
it
them.
that we understood what they were actually talking about.
My watch wants me to walk 250 steps.
Oh no, this is
In exchange for?
in exchange for your kindness, I will give you some advice and a bit of information. First of all, it sometimes pays off to be polite, even to rude people.
Ooh.
Important safety trick. And for an amusing tidbit, Baba Yaga put an enchantment on the Baron's daughter some years back. To break the spell, you need to talk to the Dryad. Au revoir, ta-ta, see you sometime.
Ah, it is a breadcrumb.
Yeah.
We are now sent to the Dryad. When we worked on the first version of Hero U, on the web version, we basically had colored or highlighted words that you could click on, and that then would continue the conversation with the context sensitive. But we eventually decided that was all boring.
Yep, we did.
So we did something else entirely.
Lots of people wondered if that's an enchanted person or anything. For this version of it, it is simply the quintessential European talking animal, and that any animal can be intelligent.
Or any fairy tale, yes.
Fairy tale. It's a fairy tale trope that we really wanted to believe in.
Which, of course, we weren't allowed to use because Roberta owned all the fairy tale tropes. That's King's Quest is just a collection of fairy tale tropes.
Mm-hmm.
Great things about this series, all the different ways you discover the ways to solve it.
Yeah. Aren't there every day at noon after you say, I don't know. And I was like 5 and copied my dad's gameplay. I remember the second note, not the one on the ground. Oh, okay, well, at 5, yeah, and, you know. Arlo says, I guess that's the great thing about this series. It's always different. Yes, it's like your own world that you discover for yourself in your own way that sticks with you. That's, that's the best part of making, to have the game feel like that, yes.
And Arlo Hero, with reference to sometimes pays off to be polite even to rude people. Thanks for that piece of advice. All these years later, I still remember pissing off some girl in high school by doing that.
Yes, yay!
Yeah,
you
get under the skin of the rude people if you're nice to them in return. Yeah. Skippo SX Summer Child says, not to be rude, but seems like you could have made one floppy with all the assets of Drive A and swap on B. 2 floppy drives? You think our customers had 2 floppy drives?
No, God.
Some of them did, but we had to do the least least common denominator.
Yeah. Well, we had to go with the least common denominator and assume they only had one, and so all of our discs had everything on it, all the animation, every disc had to do it. You know, you couldn't put anything in memory because they didn't have hard drives. So, these things are really engineering miracles.
Yeah. We did play some games, like I think Heroes of Might and Magic had a system, or no, it might have been Wizardry. Something had a system disc and a game disc, and you had to have them both in at once. But other games, I was going to go north.
I was trying to figure out how to walk. Oh, you can walk with this sword.
Yeah, you can walk with the sword, or you can walk with the cursor.
Yeah. You don't have to change it to feet, It seems strange. And it seems strange to use your fingers to actually move in this game.
WASD?
Uh-huh.
We did not support WASD.
We did later.
Types. Later we did. Uh-huh. Eek.
Braggy too?
Back to Bruggy.
Okay, let's see. I think the only computer I remember ever seeing with 2 disk drives were lab computers at schools, yes. And our 386 had 3 1/4 plus a 5 1/4. Yeah, 3 1/2 plus a 5 1/4. Though I think that was a few years after this came out.
Yeah, my AT&T 6300 had 5 1/4 inch discs. And of course my CPM system that I built myself had 8-inch floppy disks.
Yeah, really.
And Lori, when I talked about getting the Atari ST, said it had better not have a different disc format. I've already got 2, and of course it had 3 1/2 inch discs.
Yeah, well. Let's see. Oh, Broggy, I'm so sorry I killed you in Heroine's Quest. I really didn't want to.
Ask about day.
Bored I become when the banter so blindly speaks of the subjects I care not about.
Right. Ask about gem.
Glow of the frost flame that fills up the night field, a jewel that is flawless, the finest of gems.
See, I still remember this from 2 weeks ago that we talked about that.
Ah, very good.
Ask about fruit.
High point of harvest, the finest of flavor, apple or oranges, peaches or pears.
Control I. We have in our inventory 50 small apples. Let us give 1 apple to Broggy. And of course, I'll interpret that as give apples.
Fruit you have found to fill up my food stores, thus filled the bargain. My gem you have bought. Broggy has bartered, and all has been answered. The mead it made mellow, and now I head home.
See, he's going to ferment those apples.
Yes, indeed. When I was young and first played these games, most people here were so poor that a new game could cost like a fourth of your monthly paycheck, which is why pirating was widespread. Yes, and also if you were behind the Iron Curtain, it was illegal for us to put games there. Yes.
Yeah, because the government was all terrified of high-tech things like the Apple II and Tandy 1000 being shipped to Iron Curtain countries. Yes.
So it was illegal to send you these things. So yes, that proved to be an obstacle. However, as I didn't understand at the time, there were copy protection, and the pirated versions didn't include the answers. Yes, it took me a few years to understand what was going on, but when eventually I did it, it was amazing to finally get past the Dr. Cranium Quest for Glory 4 puzzle. Sorry, we really didn't want the...
Yeah, we didn't want them, but
we argued.
Management insisted.
Yes, we would argue against it, yes. How do you guys feel about fan-made sequels like Hero 6 or Heroine's Quest? Are you gratified that someone's continuing your work, or is it more like somebody stepping on your toes? No, we borrowed heavily from everything we knew, to make these games, all the cartoons, all our childhood experiences, and by having other people borrow from what they've experienced and what they loved in games, they're perpetuating the whole thing that we went into games for. Yes,
it's a tribute, in other words.
Yes.
And Quest for Glory 4.5 was an interesting example because we didn't know about it at the time, but we read, like in Rock Paper Shotgun, that it was apparently a travesty where they had taken artwork out of Quest for Glory and used it to make a game that was full of bathroom jokes and sex jokes and stuff like that.
4.5 or
yeah, King's Quest for Glory 4.5.
Okay.
And supposedly it's a terrible game, but I played a little bit and it was like, yeah, that's okay. But it was still a tribute. It just wasn't as well done. Somebody cared, and just because you care doesn't mean you're good at it. And I mean, the fact that we got to make those games, or at least the first one, was, there was an awful lot of luck and circumstance in that.
So much luck. Corkhammer says, really well done. The feel of the poems that Broggy speaks. It flows really well with most translations of the Havlamau. Honestly, that's the reason Broggy is in this game. He doesn't belong here. But I love that alliterative poetry, and it was fun to write, and so therefore that's why he's here. And that, in the fact, we were kind of kitchen sinking this. We were throwing in all of the Baba Yaga doesn't belong here. All these things because we weren't sure we were going to ever make another game. So we put in the things we really wanted to have in these things.
Now, as for piracy, and you mentioned piracy in Estonia, but obviously we weren't fans of it, but we also figured it was inevitable. We figured that people that were going to pirate our games probably were never going to buy them.
Right. They either couldn't afford it or they were not interested in them.
Yeah. And so we didn't think those really cost us sales. But, to some extent, if you had mass, sites that copied the discs and then sold them and so on.
That's illegal. Yeah,
that's bad. And that took money out of our pockets. Lori got a very small advance for writing this game and otherwise was paid a percentage of the net receipts, which was like, out of a $60 game, might be $10 was the net receipts. And then she got like 3% of that. So she got like 30 cents. So I think she got as much as $1 off the first game.
CMS.
50 cents to $1. And that's what we were paying our bills with. So, because Sierra's salary was horrible.
Albert said, "Oh, cool. Quest for Glory 1. What class are you playing as? This is a fighter. We haven't fought anything really yet, but
I haven't encountered any monsters.
Yeah, imitation is a serious form of flattery. And how did we get Sanford and Son in Quest for Glory 3? Well, that's a good question. We just did, but but at that time,
and of course everything was pixelated, so they sort of look like Sanford and Son, sort of talk like Sanford and Son, but they're not Sanford and Son.
Right. Well, they're tributes, we call them. But there was a court case that had been ruled that parody was permitted. That it was, you were allowed to parody people and things like that. And we always went with that theory. However, there is a reason why there is no ZZ Top in Space Quest.
Yeah, they originally had the Singers of the Cantina, which of course was stolen from Star Wars, that looked an awful lot like ZZ Top, and they sued, or their people sued.
And so they pulled it out. And it was only after that, after we were doing Sanford Son and a little later, that the visual graphics on a computer got so good that they could really imitate a person actually doing it. And so that's when people started copywriting. Hollywood would copyright images like Marilyn Monroe and things like that, so that you could not use them because they were trademarked effectively.
The latest atrocity is people using AI image generation to make pornographic images, supposedly Taylor Swift.
Yeah.
And that is frowned upon.
Mm. As a kid, I was in love with this game's background art. Those forest scenes are so detailed. Each pixel seems so intentional. And they are. I mean, that was one-at-a-time pixelization. There was no automatics.
Well, it was not exactly one-at-a-time pixel. So it was like paint by numbers. So the artist drew outlines of the area and then did flood fills.
They did not. Look at this, Corey. Look at your real thing. Those are two colors.
Okay.
You could not flood fill dithering.
I think that is just very, very fine lines that they drew between.
Nope.
All right. Well, they had some combination of flood fill and painting.
And they certainly had flood filling before.
Look at the background. We see the path.
Look, this is a flood fill right there. No dithering.
Well, the dithered part is flood fill too.
No.
It is flood fill with dithering. I wrote the code, okay?
You wrote a dithering
I wrote the dithering algorithms.
Okay, fine.
This is designed to work on black and white screens. It is designed to work on 16 color and on 4 color and all kinds of screens. And we had different dithering patterns for every resolution and every color scheme. And that's all automated.
Okay.
So they did a flood fill of the thing with a dither pattern. And they had a darker dither pattern in that. So it's a combination of artistry and technology.
Okay. Arlo says, some people feel very strongly about 4.5. I remember you could be banned from Quest for More Glory if you mentioned it back in the day when it was a forum site. Yeah, I can imagine. I do like to think I've redeemed myself later as I bought these games on both GOG and Steam and have a big box of Quest for Glory 4 too. But I understand now, different people who receive the money. Yes,
it was mostly the company before, now it's entirely the company. So.
Right, and honestly, we were so happy that people that,
Yeah, when it came out on GOG, it's like, yes, our games are coming back to life because we wrote the Quest for Glory series with the intention that people would play through game 1 and continue on and play the whole series. And we discovered that didn't quite work because technology changed so much.
And because we are weird people, we didn't mind that they were pirating our games across the Iron Curtain. We thought that's awesome because we're glad that people could play and that they appreciated them because our culture is so different than their culture, but they still.
And later years, people wrote in. They were really excited about having Baba Yaga in the game because that was part of Slavic culture. And they said one guy wrote in from Ukraine said that our games gave him hope at a time when the Soviet Union was repressing people in Ukraine, and they said this was the only thing that playing our games said there can be heroes in the world.
Carlos says, I feel like when you see Sanford and Son in Quest for Glory 3, you say, wow, Sierra must be a pretty impressive company to get the rights to that. No, we figured it was covered under... Mad Magazine got sued for their parodies of movies and things like that, and it went to court, and it said that there is a right, to do this parody.
Yes, it is protected.
It is protected, but as we said, it doesn't matter what. If Sanford and Son had said, okay, that's us, we want to sue this game company, they would have, and they could have. So we were taking a chance, but since management never looked at our games, they never realized that. And frankly, nobody knows who Sanford and Son is outside of the U.S. that watch the old reruns on special, television stations and things like that, because that was our childhood. Sanford and Son was.
Yeah, lawsuit's not fun. We have someone suing our family now, and we feel it's completely meritless, but it doesn't matter. It's still dragged on for about 6 years now, and has cost our insurance company lots of money. It hasn't cost us anything.
Golden Drake says, we don't want to see Mom and Dad fight.
Mom
and
Dad fight all the time.
That's
it's part of true love.
For Pixels,
true love.
For Pixels, the artwork is really quite lovely. Yes, they really.
This is the Ken Nishaway
School of Art.
Yeah. I'm told that Mark Ferrari at Lucas was called the Dither King.
Yeah.
Because he made scenes really look like they were painted on a full palette of colors.
Zamatra, good afternoon to the Coles. I see you are back to basics. So you want to be a hero. One thing always kept me thinking, how did you set the maximum score for the game? Yeah, arbitrary.
500 sounds like a good number.
So therefore we did the math. We inverted the math. We had to figure out how much we could put in for it. I
think we may have worked back and forth. So in the post that I put up on Patreon, which I should link again, but that's okay. Over on our Patreon, I did a post about making of this game. And I said we did a back and forth between top-down and bottom-up development. And that was the thing here, too. I think what we actually did is we started saying, okay, what kinds of things can you do that will give you points? So we wrote down a list. And we said, oh, cool, there's an awful lot of those. And, okay, we want to have, between 1 and 10 points for things, and depending on how important they are. And, okay, well, the 500 looks like a reasonable number. And then we worked back and made sure that the numbers added up to that.
Or above.
And above. Well, that was a trick we did. The trick was that the numbers actually add to slightly above 500, but we only display 5. If you get 530, we display 500. And that way you can get maximum score and still miss one or two minor things.
So you didn't have the adventure...
The FOMO.
The adventure game problem of the cursed cave that Corey did.
Yeah, Colossal Cave Adventure, original Advent, I had gotten to 349 out of 350. And it was totally frustrating to me. So I talked to the programmer that had converted the game over to the system I was using, and he sent me a 9-track mag tape, and I debugged the game until I found out where the missing point was.
Phantom asks, since Shadows of Darkness was originally supposed to be Quest for Glory 3, were there any bigger changes in the story that you made for Shadows than when it came out as 4 in the series, or was it still roughly what you planned for it? Planning is a
strong term.
It's a strong term. We knew where we wanted to go.
We had intention.
Yes, we had intention. We knew where it was. We knew what we were going to do with it. We even had a concept of the Dark Master to be there, but
did you know who the Dark Master was when you had that concept?
I knew Katrina.
Okay.
Katrina was definitely the
spoiler
and things. Spoiler alert. So, but that's about it. Nothing was on
Katrina's
paper.
A sweet, innocent peasant girl.
Yes, nothing was on paper, so therefore it was very easy to just alter everything and make 3.
Now, the way we constructed these scenes, we had the background painting, and then we had objects in the painting that were called ad depicts, or sometimes sprites. So the doorway.
We never called them sprites when the things.
Yeah, they were called add-to-picks. There was another term, but they were picks. So the bird that's up in the nest in that tree as an add-on, because he's not always there, and so he's not part of the background art. The door.
The nest is probably not always there.
The nest is probably not always there. It can be knocked down. So that was an add-to-pick. If it was an add-to-pick, it was permanently added to the scene for as long as you were in the room. But the doorway, you can see, is really primitive compared to the dithering and the rest of it. And that's because the door animates. And making animation look good is a lot easier with a simple drawing.
Pixel, yeah.
So.
And Eden Way says, was a missing point dropping the magazine at wit end? Yes, that's the missing point.
That was the one. And I basically saw, as for doing the right thing with the Dwarven magazines. And I'm like, well, what's the right thing? Well, it was related to a particular location. So I put in debug code that output the location I was in. And when it matched that number, that was the location that it was looking for, it said, you are here. And that was Wit's End. And I said, oh, of course. It's a place related to dwarves. Spoilers here. And you've got Dwarven magazines, so they need something to read while they're sitting there at Wit's End. So you drop the Dwarven magazine at Wit's End for the dwarves to read.
And that was his point, yes.
And it made sense in the game, but it was not obvious for a player.
And Cork Hammer says, Katrina was the perfect addition for heart-rending to a 13-year-old me. Yes. And
by the way, I'm no longer on a display, so we're using real time here. Let's
just bring up a thingy.
Look at tree.
Okay, fine, here. Let's see.
Tree is a large oak. There's a nest and a simple limb that seems to reach out toward the hut.
Brainiac says, I will never not sing the praises of Katrina, both for the character and for Jennifer Hale's portrayal. Yes. And Pork Hammer says, show me someone who wouldn't, and I'll show you someone who has no soul. Not that Joyce Kurtz wasn't as good as Katrina, but come on, Jen Hale. Yes. I thought Joyce was quite good as Julinar, though. Yeah. Okay, let's see. And it's a shame they couldn't get the same actresses for Arana and Katrina to come back for Quest for 5. I believe the real problem was because we had a totally different director for that. If we
didn't have the contacts.
If we had Stu Rosen again, I'm sure we would have had...
He would have talked to them into coming back, and he would have understood continuity and that we wanted to get them back.
Correct. So, but it's a matter of, we had a totally different director and
different management and everything else, and so
that's what you get.
They treat it as a completely separate project.
Right.
Yeah, Katrina is a great name. Anyways, the nest of single limb that seems to reach out towards the hut.
Okay, yeah. Shall we go to the hut?
Yeah.
There's a hut. You want to knock on the door?
The bird moved, so they're calling attention to it. Look at bird. Creature looks more like a small flying lizard than a bird, so it is not actually. Look at sign. Sign over the door. The apothecary bottle indicates the occupant is skilled with potions. Knock on door. Now, we've noticed all the doors open first automatically in town, but this one didn't, so it would be polite to. You hear the inside bolt slide open.
So you couldn't have opened it if you'd wanted it.
Come on in.
That's dedication.
And it was only momentary here, but we had a thing called hands off. So we would take control away from the player so you couldn't type anything, and then do the animation of, change your scene and all that stuff, and then give you control again.
The fragrance of the herbs mingle with some other rather pungent odors as you step into the healer's house. Lovely day, isn't it? My, you look very healthy for an adventurer. Must be new.
It's a little cautionary note about the adventuring profession.
What can I do for you? I can sell you potions if you like. I can also buy spell components if you're interested in gathering some from me. Don't mind me. I always have so much to do around here. And there's your futz. I make and sell healing potions, magic potions, vigor potions, and undead unguent.
That sounds weird. A potions will cost you. I was about to ask about price.
Yeah, there you go.
Healing potion is 40 silvers. Magic potion is 60 silvers. Vigor potion is 20 silvers. And undead unguent is 100 silvers. What's our silver to gold ratio? Is it 10 to 1?
I think it's 10 to 1.
And we have 1 gold coin. So let's buy a healing potion for 40 silvers. You find you have less money than you thought. You can't afford to buy the potion. Ask about work.
I'm sorry. I just don't know much about that. Perhaps you should ask someone else. The generic. I don't know about that.
Components. What was the word she used?
I will pay you for cheetar claws, troll beard, magic mushrooms, and flowers from Arata's piece.
Well, we should look for all those things.
I like how you got the theme of magic being forbidden in Quest for Glory 3 and 4. It always seems strange to me in 1, 2, and 5 that people are just walking around practicing magic in broad daylight. Well, you know, we wanted a fantasy world where it felt like a fantasy world and not a real world with a few things tagged on it. So it just depends upon the culture and how those people reacted for that.
And of course, we were heavily informed by D&D, which in turn was informed by Lord of the Rings. And Lord of the Rings is low magic. Yeah. D&D is much higher magic. And the most, it's always one of the more fun and interesting things of Dungeons & Dragons. So, bringing magic to the world that, that was fantasy at the time.
For some reason, I still believe the SCI engine is one of the most beautiful game engines. Still, how hard was it to adapt the original engine, which was not meant to have RPG elements, for all the versions of Quest for Glory, especially the fact that you have changed the battle systems in all games?
Okay, so the trick here was that my first job at Sierra was not creating a game. I worked for a year converting the SCI engine over to the Atari ST. And that means I was into the internals in the engine. I knew all the commands, all the operations, how the object-oriented system worked, how the parser worked, all that stuff before I made the game. And I was able to say, okay, we have an object-oriented system that you can build classes of objects and on the basis of other classes. And I said, okay, I can do a role-playing game system by putting things like the character stats and the character sheet as classes in programming terms. And so we basically just built a layer on top of SCI to handle that. Sierra originally wanted a game like Ultima, and I said Ultima with all their maps and all their characters that have 4 movement positions and stuff like that. Said, well, you can do animation that's so much more sophisticated than Ultima, so you don't want to copy that. And the map stuff, there's no provision for that. Later on, working with Bob Heitman, we managed to do the map for Shannara, but at the time, and for Quest for Glory 3, of course, we had the map.
Yeah, so we developed it for 3.
I think Bob did that one too.
He did. And that's why I asked him to come over and do the map.
Yeah. So that was hard. But, we have scenes in the game. We have characters moving around.
And in fact, Bob Heidman did the one for 5. So we basically...
Yeah, he was our map guy.
Yeah, we made him our map guy. Yeah.
So combat, was hard to... We didn't have enough memory in those scenes to actually do combat. So that's where we came up with the idea of going into a stage for combat and having a scene just for combat.
Yeah.
Because that let us not take away memory from the code for the room.
And yes, we were rewriting the combat system for every game because we were trying to make it really work and really feel good.
And then, of course, the RPG system we started with was one that Lori and I had developed as paper system that we called Fantasy Guild. Yeah. That we had run our own games for friends on, so we didn't publish or anything, but
yeah. So did porting SCI to the Atari ST require assembly language, or were you able to use something a little higher level?
It was written about 2/3 in C and about 1/3 in assembly language, and I had to hand translate all of the assembly language, and in addition, the graphic systems are completely different on a PC than the Atari ST. In terms of where the color layers and stuff are. So there was a lot of custom code for that. One of the hard, surprisingly hard parts was even in the C code that 8086 systems are what they call low endian. If you have a 16-bit value, it is the low order byte and then the high order byte. And 6800 and 68,000 systems are high endian. You have the high order byte and the low order byte. So the number 5 would be a 5 and a 0 on PC and a 0 and a 5 on the Macintosh or the Atari. So I basically had to write macros in C that translated every number, and it was really a pain. And the addresses, addressing space in the PC was segmented. You only had 64K of memory to work with. It was direct addressed. You only had 16-bit number with the address, and the Atari ST had flat memory space that could be hundreds of thousands of bytes or millions of bytes with direct addressing. So I had to play around with addressing. So it took a lot of custom stuff, and a lot of that was done in assembly language.
Walrus says, Ultima and Quest for Glory series were my favorite DOS games of all time. Great. We're glad to hear that. And Arliss is interesting about Shannara and Ultima. I've actually been wondering how someone would make a real-time strategy game in AGI.
Mm. Oh, the other thing on Atari ST SCI was that I didn't have a working computer for about a month after I was working there. And then even when I had one, the editor tended to crash all the time, the programming editor. So I actually ended up doing all that translation, all that assembly language on yellow legal pads. I went through about 30 or 40 yellow legal pads filled with handwritten assembly language code, which fortunately I had done that at a previous job, so I was used to it. Cut and paste means use the paper cutter and Scotch tape.
Yes.
So it was pretty primitive.
Did you work on the Realm Online, or was that a completely separate team? It was
completely separate.
It wasn't even in our building.
And the guy that did it basically was moonlighting. He was being paid by Sierra for a project, and he wrote the starter code for the Realm on their dime, but they didn't know about it. It was his hobby. And then he eventually sold it to them, so he got paid twice.
Oh, wow. Somebody that outsmarted the Sierra. But then again, we were supposed to, when we were called back to do Quest for Glory 5, they really wanted Quest for Glory online as the Realm, using the people that did the Realm originally, but we were going to be, or at least I was coming in to make story of the Realm. And that didn't work out.
Yes, Arlo Hero says, sounds like a killer. I remember having to use assembly to write graphics speedily by writing directly to video memory. Yeah, we had to take advantage of features of each of the processors that copied blocks of memory at a time, and you had to set up the thing. And I actually had code that unrolled the loop. So you're used to, you would normally have a loop that is, going across and writing each pixel and so on. I actually unrolled the loop. So I had repeated code that it would jump into the middle of the code to copy the stuff in order to save, so you didn't have the time for checking for the end of the loop and the go-to. It was really crazy.
Terry and Teresa are some cutest touches in Quest for Glory 1. I just love the idea of having a little, dinosaur pet. Who wouldn't want a pterosaur as their pet? Yes, and that was, again, you come up with the idea. We need a puzzle. The idea of a puzzle being something that you could nest, you could knock down, or you could do that. So therefore, we needed something to build that nest, and we needed something to tie into building that nest.
And why would you knock it down in the first place?
And why would that ring be up there in the first place?
Ring?
And so to create
that ring, I haven't found about
yes,
ring
right.
Yet.
And so yes, you did. You read the message board, the board.
Oh, message board. Sister Lost Ring. Yes.
Right. So all of these are tied together. And so, therefore, you come up with the idea of, okay, there needs to be something in the nest. It could be a bird. And magpie, automatically you think of a magpie when you think of the ring. And then, what if it isn't a bird? What if it's a pterosaur? And therefore, you just create this thing.
So it's a miniature dinosaur, because it's the fantasy setting and so on. We've got dinosaurs running around and fighting.
We wanted to have sauruses in the game, yes.
Yeah.
Big jump to having ChatGTP in your code. Yeah, really.
It wouldn't necessarily trust that code. I would reread it. We would proofread it very closely.
Yeah.
One of the things we would spend hours on is code that just wouldn't work, and you would eventually discover that you had a comma where you should have had a period or vice versa, and you couldn't actually tell because
you can't see the difference.
It's a pixel.
Yeah.
This comma is pretty different than that period, so that was the font that I think Bob Heitman
really
created this font by on graph paper.
Nest Puzzle was a classed intro to multiple class solutions for this series. Yes, it was the easiest thing to figure out how to make it vary between the characters.
Yeah. Arlo, the reason I learned about writing assembly language on legal pads is I worked with a paper tape machine at my second job. My first job was in his intern up in Canada. We had pretty good tools there. But then I worked on really primitive tools, developing firmware that drove computer terminals. And I was a 20-year-old recent college grad, and I worked with like a 50-year-old guy that was the experienced programmer there. And he taught me all the techniques of cutting and scotch taping paper and stuff like that, because he was true old school. So this is the healer. Good enough.
Okay, I just brought it up so that we'd be sitting here so you can yak. There's a grand tradition of writing assembly code on paper and translating it into machine language by hand. As I recall, Steve Wozniak wrote the original BASIC that way before there was even an Apple II to run on it. Yeah.
Whereas Bill Gates...
Is that where cut and paste came from?
Maybe.
Literally,
yeah,
yes.
It was. We literally cut and paste.
Yes, so that, yes.
Or cut and taped.
Yes, so therefore, yes.
No, where it actually comes... Okay, that isn't where it really comes from, no. Cut and paste comes from the publishing industry.
Okay.
If you were laying out a magazine, and remember we did this thing called the spell book, we took glue sticks, and we took the artwork that had been sent to us by wonderful artists like Melody Rondeau and Mel White, and we would use an X-Acto knife to cut out the artwork, and then use a glue stick to paste it onto the paper, and they could also use cut and paste to take blocks of text and cut them out and paste them in different places. So yeah, that was how you assembled. Could go into the file cabinet there and find the originals.
Well, I don't have to. But I mean, just was going to say that literally since
here's an early edition of the spell book, one of the very first.
And this is the kind of cut and paste stuff we were doing. We were putting little pictures here and there, and we wanted to break up the texts.
So here we had a piece of artwork that was provided by one of the members of the group, and what's the text in that say? It's a rabbit.
This wasn't exactly what I had in mind, getting turned into a rabbit, I guess.
Okay, this is actually, I think there was a series of these I'd like.
There it is.
We don't have any light here.
Oh, well, you can show that. Let's see.
Okay.
That's
it's the hero, or it's the mundane man talking to a wizard. And he says, I'd like speed, agility, good reflexes, maneuverability, etc., ability to live off the land, and then the next scene, poof, he's a rabbit.
Yep, it wasn't exactly what I had in mind.
Wasn't exactly what I had in mind.
That's the quality of cartoons and things we had. But it's actually really good.
And Lori and Richard. Oh, this one didn't have it. It didn't have the cartoon of this one.
All right. Well, here's
this
number
is volume
3.
Why didn't this one have a cartoon? It should have.
No, because that's what number
this
is
is
that?
number 5.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, fine.
This one. Okay, so give me another one.
There you go. You have number 2. This is number 2.
Okay.
May, June of 1981.
1981. Boy, this music won't come out. We'll ruin it.
Okay, fine. So yeah, at any rate.
Okay, here we go. So, Lori drew this cartoon.
And pretty much wrote it. Richard gave me the ideas.
Yeah, Richard gave us the basic idea, and then Lori ended up writing it all and drawing the cartoons.
Yeah, it's on.
This was Birth of a Hobbit, and that was the origin of Erasmus and Fenris.
Yeah.
And I had actually told Richard an anecdote, which he says he told me, but I told him an anecdote about a story that some D&D players had talked about a powerful wizard who read The Hobbit and decided that, oh, that's really exciting. He should become a hobbit and have become a thief, and then Richard expanded on that
so
and
Richard,
came up with
loved that idea.
with the idea. So we called that Birth of a Hobbit, which the Tolkien estate would not have approved of, but we were too small for them to come after.
Yeah, yes, and no. Now that I think of it, I guess I had to write assembly on paper for my midterm and final in that class. I
had pretty good tools for editing in college, so I did I wrote a Pascal compiler in 360 assembly language, but we had really good editors for that. I didn't use any paper on that.
Eden Way says in my high school publication class, we did do some of the manual layout. At least we could use computers to print out the text images. That was, that's when we started to be able to use the computer. That's why Corey made the desktop publishing machine that he did so that we could do the dumb spell book.
Well, I'm not sure which was cause and which was effect.
But yes. It was effectively, we needed it. We knew there was a need for it. And
it was our test case, yes.
Yes.
And so I came up with a desktop publishing system for the Atari ST, and we used that for the spell book. And then after that, the spell book, instead of coming out quarterly, came out about once a year.
Yeah,
until it didn't come out anymore.
Until it didn't come out.
Because we were too busy writing the tools. This was an ongoing lesson in the computer game industry. All the computer game companies wanted to develop their own tools, and that meant you were too busy making tools to actually make games.
Yeah.
The smartest thing Sierra did, and again, this was Bob Heitman and Jeff Stevenson, was coming up with AGI and SCI and having centralized tools that every game used. And
you didn't
a tools group that only worked on that, and the game developers used the tools.
Yep. Let's see. I guess your idea about a wizard who wants to be a thief is like the opposite of the Wizard of Oz. That was a thief who wanted to be a wizard.
As was Oz and Skeeve, Myth Adventures.
Yes. And I always wondered if there was some unused screens locations in the Quest for Glory Hero.
And we talked about that many times, but yes.
Other than there were ideas that we wanted. There were a lot of ideas that didn't get put in because we didn't have time. But since we were doing this as needed at the time, so the art resources were there as needed, and so we didn't have a lot of extra stuff. I heard that the Goblin screen originally was planned to have an entry into the underground. That is true. There was going to be a Goblin underground that you could have gone in. Would have been neat to stumble upon one of their poker sessions.
And at least my vision of the Goblin Underground is I was thinking of the book version of The Hobbit. There was no movie at the time. Basically they are caught by bad weather on this mountainside and go into a cave for shelter. And during the night, the goblins open up the secret passage and kidnap the adventurers and take them down into their goblin lair. And that was kind of the way I visualized what would happen. And then you would go in and negotiate with the Goblin King. And
there was going to be a Goblin King, yes.
And on his throne. And then when they came out with the Hobbit movie, I said, if we'd had the $100 million budget, that's what that would have been.
Yeah, it wouldn't have been that elaborate, but we just didn't have time. It did get cut. David Bowie? No, we weren't going to think of David Bowie.
No.
Sorry.
So it's it's development budget, it's schedule, amount of time you have, and it's disk space. Because working on floppy disks, we really had to cut down our ideas for the size of the game.
And plus, when I'm creating something, I'm going to give you 3 billion things that we want to do with this. There's so much stuff I want to do, and you have to keep trimming the things. So
we talked about the adversarial approach that should be between a game producer, which was Garuka Singh Khalsa, and the game director, which is Laurie. That the director should want to make everything and the sky's the limit, and the producer keeps you down to earth.
It's supposed to be the reality check, and there wasn't one at Sierra. So I had to be my own reality check, and I had to make the tough decisions saying, we can't actually do this.
Yes, because Garuka kept saying, "Oh, that sounds wonderful! Yeah, put that in."
Yes, and because at the time Sierra wanted that designer to be the person in charge of the whole team and everything, and it's like that's not a good idea from a general management standpoint. And eventually, it all
changed. But
yes.
Yeah, but the game description and game designer, it's time to turn that light on.
I know. Well, it's time to say goodbye because it's actually
time to say goodbye.
So I thought sitting here in the dark is perfectly reasonable.
All right, so it is getting dark here. Soon we will be going.
Yes,
soon we will be leaving you.
Yes, we will be leaving you. We will be leaving you. Au revoir, ta-ta for now. Yes, indeed, and we will see you next time in 2 weeks.
I wanted to say.
Okay.
Something.
You may say. What did you want to say?
I don't remember something about game designers. The Sarah description of the job of a game designer was the director, the manager of the team, the writer, come up with the design and the concepts. Did you actually click save on that?
I did collect save, yes, so that we could actually get out of here and have full screen webcam. Yeah, okay, quit. You could quit.
So how about a slice of quiche? That was a joke from the
webcam
book Real Men Don't Eat Quiche at the time. It's really getting dark.
Yeah, it is. Wow, you wouldn't know that. It's actually still light outside, but here it's dark. Okay.
I'm in my little dark corner of the room.
Oh, looking forward to the continuation. Take care, everyone. See you in 2 weeks. That date is, what date?
I don't know, sometime in February.
Yeah, it is. It's the 10th of
February 10th.
Just before Valentine's Day, and we will have a Valentine's
That'll probably be the theme, yeah.
But we'll still be playing Quest for Glory 1, trying to see how far we can get in this slow play.
And where we've gotten so far, it won't allow me to update that app.
I will.
Oh well.
See you later. It's 7:30 there, so it is quite dark.
Later, alligator.
Yeah.
Anyway, Real Men Don't Eat Quiche. Have another slice of quiche when you quit.
Yep. See you later.
Yep. Much more to say. Fortunately, we'll have many more of these streams.
We have many more to talk about next time. Bye.
Ending the stream.